This is a super sweet and thrilling comic. How can it not be thrilling when a high-ranking noble is about to be overpowered? Tsukaiji, a highly skilled doctor, had been performing surgeries continuously for several days without rest. He ultimately died of a sudden heart attack and found himself transported to ancient times. Tsukaiji felt dizzy. His head was heavy, and he occasionally heard chaotic noises around him. Annoyed, he pulled off the red veil covering his eyes. But when he saw the scene before him, he was stunned. This was not a hospital at all. What kind of place was this? He desperately tried to recall what had happened to him. He only remembered that everything suddenly went black, and he lost consciousness. When he opened his eyes again, he was here. Could it be that he had died of overwork and traveled through time? After a moment, he reluctantly accepted this inexplicable phenomenon. Suddenly, he anxiously looked down at his body and was relieved to see that everything was still in place. He was still a man. But the next second, a new wave of panic surged through him. Since he was a man, why was he wearing a wedding dress? At that moment, the original owner's memories flooded into Tsukaiji's mind like a rising tide. He could only close his eyes and passively endure the invasion of these foreign memories. Chaotic images flashed through his mind. He finally pieced together the whole story. It turned out that the original owner was an assassin sent by Prince An to kill the emperor. To make the original owner more obedient, the treacherous Prince An had even drugged him. According to the plot, his current mission was to assassinate the emperor. After successfully being escorted to the emperor's bedchamber, all the attendants left, leaving Tsukaiji alone to figure out how to stay alive. If he killed the emperor tonight, he would be charged with treason and would not be able to leave the imperial city alive. Moreover, the treacherous Prince An would likely use him as a scapegoat. Carefully, he hid the dagger he had brought under the pillow. But if he did not act tonight, he would have to find a way to deceive the emperor first, then think of a way to get the antidote. He was deep in thought when the door suddenly opened without warning. A blurry, tall figure barged into Tsukaiji's line of sight. The person sat directly on the chair, propped their chin, and looked at Tsukaiji. The rain fell, calm and unchanging. "Take off the veil yourself." The emperor's indifferent and distant voice unexpectedly reached Tsukaiji's ears. He did not expect the emperor's voice to be quite pleasant. He just wondered what he looked like. Slowly, he reached out and removed the veil obstructing his view. The man's appearance was fully revealed before Tsukaiji. He looked quite to Tsukaiji's taste. After all, Tsukaiji was a modern man, male by gender and attracted to men. The emperor glanced at him and suddenly stood up. He walked over, grabbed Tsukaiji's chin, and seriously examined him. "The woman uncle prepared for me is indeed stunning," he remarked, then returned to his cold demeanor. Tsukaiji froze for a moment, unable to react. Seeing that the beauty did not move, the emperor seemed a bit impatient. He directly reached out, wrapped his arm around the beauty's waist, and pulled him closer. His voice was so captivating it could stir one's soul. "Since you won't cry yourself, I will help you cry," he said. Tsukaiji could clearly feel the restless hand on his waist moving. Truly, this emperor was quite the flirt. It seemed Tsukaiji had no choice but. Before he could finish his thought, he was interrupted. The emperor grabbed his hand and pinned it above his head, his voice carrying a hint of displeasure. "What are you thinking about? So distracted." With that, he initiated an attack, igniting sparks all over Tsukaiji's body. His slender fingers moved downward from his waist. The indescribable sensation made the emperor's eyes widen. The man beneath him squinted slightly, grabbed the emperor's shoulders and swiftly flipped their positions. Tsukaiji's hand, which had once held a scalpel, lightly slid across the smooth skin, his voice full of teasing. "Your Majesty is quite impatient, is not he?" The emperor, now pressed beneath him, immediately exploded. How dare you act so insolently toward me?" Tsukaiji's face showed no trace of panic. Instead, he lowered his voice and teased the emperor further. "Your Majesty, do not make a fuss. Why not try being underneath for a change?" This episode escalated quickly. "You know what I mean." When Tsukaiji suggested trying to make him lose his composure, the king froze for a moment before reacting. Chi-Cheng was bold, and Tsukaiji smirked slightly, secretly admiring Chi-Cheng. Tsukaiji never hesitates. But just as he thought that, the emperor broke free from his restraints and shot him a fierce glare. Without hesitation, the emperor reached out to tear off his clothes. The thin garment was easily ripped away, exposing the man's body completely. The intense visual impact left the king stunned, and it took him a while to find his voice again. You are a man." He looked at his own hand, the one that had just been igniting chaos. Utterly bewildered. Did he really just touch that? Feeling deceived, the king looked utterly distressed and finally could not hold back his anger, shouting furiously at Tsukaiji, "Do you realize this is treason? You could lose your head for this." Tsukaiji wanted to say something to ease the tension, but was interrupted by the king's violent coughing. Without hesitation, he adjusted his clothes and approached him. He supported the king, who seemed to be struggling to breathe after being agitated. Tsukaiji reached out to examine his chest, and found that his chest was swollen with a noticeable pulse. He then checked his wrist for a pulse and estimated his heart rate to be over 100 beats per minute, likely tachycardia. After diagnosing the condition, he knew it was time for treatment. He turned to the king and asked, "Do you have any anti-arrhythmic medication?" But the king seemed not to hear him, only gasping for air. When Su Kaiji received no response, he realized this was not the modern era. In this backward dynasty, such medication likely did not exist, nor were there any medical devices available. At this point, the only option was acupuncture. By stimulating specific points, he could induce nausea and excite the nerves, thus slowing the heart rate. Su Kaiji steadied his hand and inserted 2 fingers deep into the king's mouth. Then he started moving his feet wildly inside. The fragmented sounds kept coming out of his mouth, constantly grinding on Su Kaiji's taut nerves, causing the emotions in his eyes to gradually show some movement. After a while, Ji Wang's symptoms gradually stabilized. The hand gripping the bed sheet slowly relaxed. Su Kaiji timed it perfectly and withdrew his fingers. His long fingers were still covered with a suspicious transparent substance. Su Kaiji glanced at it, and then turned his gaze to Ji Wang. His voice was both malicious and ambiguous. Feeling better now, Ji Wang, after recovering, remembered the invasion in his mouth earlier. He angrily pushed Su Kaiji away, his voice sounding more like he was exasperated. How dare you disrespect me like this?" Su Kaiji smirked indifferently. As his savior, Ji Wang did not immediately speak against him but instead seriously adjusted his clothes. Watching his actions, Su Kaiji could not help but chuckle. I did not expect this little emperor to be quite innocent. He felt that Su Kaiji's feeling better had multiple meanings, but he had no evidence. The recovered little emperor was full of caution towards Su Kaiji. "What kind of savior are you? You clearly took advantage of me." Su Kaiji tilted his head indifferently. "Your Majesty's condition is a heart disorder. With the current medical conditions, it can't be completely cured. I used that method earlier to relieve it." He then sighed helplessly. "If I wanted to harm your Majesty, just now would have been the perfect time to act. Why would I help relieve your pain?" Speaking of his condition, Ji Wang frowned slightly. This time, his condition did indeed recover, faster than usual. Who exactly is this person in front of him? He looked at Su Kaiji with a serious expression. "The imperial physician has been treating me for so many years without being able to relieve it. Where did you learn your medical skills? You can tell the illness at a glance." After speaking, I stared at him intently, afraid to miss any subtle changes in his expression. Su Kaiji awkwardly avoided the gaze of the inner court official and casually made up a story to respond. "I have been impatient since I was young. My family took me to visit an old traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and I learned some techniques from him." Afraid the young emperor would not believe him, he cautiously added, "In terms of medical skills, I may not be as good as the imperial physicians, but as a wandering doctor, I have my own methods." After hearing his words, the emperor seemed to believe him somewhat. However, since this person's background was unclear, he decided to send someone to investigate thoroughly. Later. "What is your real purpose? Are you trying to use this to threaten me?" Su Kaiji stood up from his seat. "I am sure your Majesty can guess my purpose for being sent here. Even with just a little thought, you would know it was your dear imperial uncle who sent me to deal with you." But what puzzled him was that he could not find any hidden weapons on Su Kaiji. Could it be that he planned to use medical skills to make his move? As if sensing his doubts, Su Kaiji helplessly expressed, "I am just an ordinary person. I do not want to become a sacrificial pawn in this political struggle." The emperor smirked slightly. "Do you realize that just for saying this, I could have your head chopped off?" Su Kaiji showed no fear of his threat. He casually brushed off non-existent dust, and spoke with confidence. "Your imperial physicians can only prescribe harmless remedies. They would not dare to do anything as bold as what I just did. But I am different." He reached out, wrapped his arm around the emperor's waist, and pulled him close. "I can make your Majesty feel good, can't I?" The emperor furrowed his brows and fell silent for a long time, seemingly weighing the truth of his words. Su Kaiji did not disturb him, standing quietly by the wall. He released the emperor's waist and walked up the steps, boldly and confidently ascending. "Your Majesty does not need to harbor such hostility toward me. I hope you will consider this carefully." As he spoke, he discreetly slipped the hidden weapon from under the pillow into his sleeve. The emperor turned around, about to say something, but Su Kaiji interrupted him. Su Kaiji domineeringly pulled him close, playing with his sleeve and hair as he spoke. "Your Majesty, do you plan to sleep on the floor tonight, or will you sleep with me?" Faced with Su Kaiji's aggressive advances, could the emperor resist? Although Su Kaiji had traveled back from the modern era, it seemed he did not know the meaning of restraint. He hooked the emperor. Wang Chanfa asked with a playful smile, "So, tonight, do you want to sleep on the floor or share the bed with him?" The king's face was full of disbelief as he pushed his hand away. "What are you talking about?" Su Kaiji smirked and shifted his gaze toward the door. "It is your wedding night. Your Majesty can't possibly leave now." The king instinctively turned his head toward the door. The shadow outside was clearly visible. It seemed his dear royal uncle had even arranged an audience for this scene. Seizing the moment, Su Kaiji added another sharp remark. If your majesty leaves now and lets outsiders see, would not it be a joke to the entire world that the emperor can't handle this? The remark was cutting and humiliating. The king hesitated for a moment but ultimately compromised. However, he still strongly disapproved of Tsukaiji's decision. He angrily pointed at the clean but cold floor. You can't expect the emperor of a nation to sleep on the floor. How improper. The more the king spoke, the more he felt justified. He grabbed the pillow from the bedside and shoved it into Tsukaiji's arms. You go sleep over there. Tsukaiji chuckled softly, took the pillow from his arms, and placed it back on the bed. He showed no intention of backing down from the king's decision. I will sleep right here. With that, his captivating gaze locked onto the king. In one swift motion, he flipped over and pinned the king beneath him. With a knowing smile, he made the decision for the king. I think your majesty actually wants to share the bed with me. As he spoke, he pressed his body down even closer, closing the gap between them completely. The emotions in his eyes were intense and captivating, his voice low and seductive enough to stir the soul. How about we take care of the things that should be done on a wedding night as well? Before the person beneath him could resist, Tsukaiji's hand had already slipped into the king's clothes, accompanied by his relentless advances. The king was so overwhelmed that the corners of his eyes turned red, his breathing and heartbeat growing erratic. I beg you for mercy, he stammered. But I never said you could be so presumptuous. Furious, the Xiao Mei curled the corners of her mouth slightly. After a while, she found a place to rest. For now, Ji Wang was safe. The next thing to consider was how to deal with Wang and how to find the antidote before the outbreak. He looked at the person beside him. Ji Wang was already fast asleep, deeply immersed in his dreams, completely devoid of the seriousness and fierceness he had when awake. As he watched, he too was overcome by drowsiness and closed his eyes, falling into a deep sleep. For now, the best way for him to stay alive was probably to rely on the emperor's protection. The two of them finally managed to lie on the same bed. Based on the limited memories in Tsukaiji's mind, this was a fictional dynasty where royal power and court power coexisted. The emperor ascended the throne at a young age and was too young to manage state affairs. And Wang, the emperor's fourth uncle, took on the role of regent. But rather than assisting, it was more like controlling. However, the young emperor gradually grew up and developed a sense of self-control, unwilling to be a puppet any longer. He started to become disobedient. No one likes to see things out of control, so Wang decided to kill the emperor and take the throne himself. Their attack was part of this plan. Meanwhile, on the surface, Wang's mansion appeared calm, but in reality, it was fraught with tension. Wang sat in his chair, listening to his subordinate's report. The eunuch bowed his head quietly and reported the progress of the plan. It seemed the emperor had been attacked, but it was not yet confirmed if he was dead. Wang's hand paused as he tapped the table, his eyes flashing with an unreadable emotion. Continue to monitor. Make sure to see 2 bodies by tomorrow. Understood. Meanwhile, the palace was in crisis. Several assassins quietly approached the emperor's bedchamber, exchanged glances, and began to blow knockout gas into the room. As soon as the scent wafted in, Ji Wang woke up alertly. He sat up and looked out the window. It seemed he would not get a good night's sleep tonight. He stared at the sleeping Tsukaiji, thinking about how to prevent them from making contact. He had not expected this person's vigilance. It was quite high. As soon as he bent down, the person inside woke up. He froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. Tsukaiji looked at the ambiguous posture between the two and smiled. Your Majesty, were you planning to take advantage of me while I was asleep? Before he could finish his sentence, he was immediately covered by someone. The lone king turned his head to test the waters and looked outside. Tsukaiji followed his gaze. When he saw the figure moving outside the window, he was speechless for a moment. How could there be a second wave? The lone king had been secretly observing the person beneath him. When he saw his reaction, he was also stunned. Could it be that he was completely unaware of this? He bent down and leaned in to prevent the person inside from hearing what he was saying. Come with me to the bed and do not make a sound. Suddenly, Tsukaiji tiptoed towards the table. The lone king looked at him with a puzzled expression. Tsukaiji then soaked a towel in tea and then covered the lone king's mouth and nose with the wet towel. Your Majesty, use this. Simply covering with your hand won't be effective. A wet towel can reduce the smoke concentration by up to 60%. Plus, the large space in the room allows for quick dispersion. It should prevent us from being knocked out. Don't ask why 2 grown men are lying in the same bed. Of course, it is to chat under the covers. To avoid being knocked out, the 2 men simply held the wet towels and fell silent. The lone king stared at the person opposite him for a while before breaking the eerie silence. Tell me, what are Prince N's next plans? Tsukaiji looked at the lone king innocently. Whether your Majesty believes it or not, I truly do not know. The lone king snorted, and it was unclear whether he believed it or not. Outside, the assassins saw that the guards had completely fallen. Judging that the time was right, they pushed open the door and sneaked in. The blanket on the bed was bulging, as if someone was hiding inside. The assassins exchanged glances, and the lead assassin drew his sword and stabbed at the blanket. However, before the sword could fall, it was knocked away by an external force. The lone king secretly used the blanket to disrupt the lead assassin's balance and then swiftly took his life with a single move. His face remained expressionless, clearly not the first time he had dealt with such situations. You dare to play such tricks in front of me, the other assassins, seeing their leader fall, a sudden panic hit them, but they had no way out and could only grit their teeth and push forward. Su Kaiji, lying in bed, secretly observed the situation. Although he could not see the whole picture, he knew this was a good opportunity to gain the king's trust. So he started making plans in his mind. The king was focused on dealing with the assassins and had no time to pay attention to Su Kaiji. He did not realize that Su had already set his sights on the assassin behind him, nor did he expect Su to suddenly rush in front of him and take a blow meant for him. The cold blade mercilessly pierced Su Kaiji's flesh. The pain from the wound instantly overwhelmed Su Kaiji's brain, and he could not help but cry out in pain. He could not help but cry. The king, supporting Su Kaiji, swiftly dealt with the last assassin. Su Kaiji stared blankly at the ground covered with assassins, his shock temporarily overshadowing the pain. He did not expect the young emperor to be such a capable fighter. Before he could finish his thought, blood spurted from his mouth. The king's frown deepened, and his tone became even harsher. With such limited skills, do not rush to throw your life away. Su Kaiji closed his eyes in pain, his voice weakening. I saw your majesty being ambushed and had no time to warn you, so I could only save you this way. He looked at the king, wearing a pained expression, as if afraid he might run away. I almost lost my life for your majesty. You won't ignore me, will you? From that night on, the news of the new concubine Su saving the emperor spread throughout the palace. The palace intrigue and scheming among the concubines began anew. Su Kaiji, the protagonist of the story, was unaware of it all. After this stabbing incident, he decided to prepare himself whenever he had time. Just then, a sharp voice interrupted him. Prince N. Su Kaiji's heart skipped a beat. You are early, he thought, then quickly switched to a submissive mode. The next second, Prince N pushed the door open and entered. Su Kaiji immediately put on a frightened look and stared at the visitor. Prince N, why are you here? The king never thought he would one day share a bed with a concubine he had not fully understood, just because of a moment of softness. Am I bewitched, he wondered. On the street, Prince N suddenly visited. Su Kaiji had no choice but to switch to his useless mode and deal with him cautiously. To make Prince N lower his guard, he planned to play the victim first. Fortunately, he narrowly escaped with his life. If the sword had been 2 inches off, he might not have seen the prince. Prince N dismissed the servants with just a few words. After everyone else had left, Su Kaiji and Li Ying grabbed Prince N's clothes in a panic, speaking so quickly it was as if they were sped up. Your Highness, forgive me, I had no choice. Su Kaiji looked at Prince N with a wronged expression. His Majesty is too cautious. He did not even drink the wine. As soon as he came in, he took my clothes. I had no chance to act. After hearing this, Prince N just smiled. No worries. His Majesty has always been cautious. He then took out a small bottle from his chest. You did well. Don't be nervous. I am not here to blame you. This is a top-quality golden wound medicine. Apply it to the wound to speed up healing. Keep it with you. After showing some concern, Jia Yi walked out. This little emperor was harder to deal with than he had imagined. Yesterday, he almost ruined everything. He glanced back without showing any emotion. However, this person can't be fully trusted now. He needs to find an opportunity to get rid of him. Time quickly passed to the evening. The lonely king was strolling in the palace and stopped when he reached Yangning Palace, where Su Kaiji was. The old servant who had served him for many years immediately stepped forward. With a very flattering smile on his face, he asked, Your Majesty, are you going to stay at Yangning Palace? The lonely king frowned in displeasure. What, do I need to report to you what I want to do? Are you afraid I will report you? The old servant quickly shook his head and waved his hands, saying, No, I would not dare. It is just that the matters of the night need to be arranged by someone and recorded in the public records. The lonely king waved his hand and said there was no need, then walked straight to Yangning Palace. The old servant watched his direction and was overjoyed in his heart. Has His Majesty finally come to his senses? All those concubines before, and he did not favor a single one. It really drove him mad. I stared directly at Su Kaiji and got straight to the point. Your good royal uncle visited you today. What did he say? To some extent, I can be considered an ally of his. So Su Kaiji did not hold back. He did come by, just said a few words of concern for me. He would not be foolish enough to make bold declarations. In the palace, would he? I raised an eyebrow. He did not slip you anything, did he? Let me see. Seeing his worried expression, Su Kaiji leaned in proactively, his words carrying a hint of teasing warmth. If His Majesty is worried, you can search me yourself. Don't worry, he would not dare. Su Kaiji grabbed my hand and placed it on himself. There are not many places on me to hide anything. One touch and you will know. I merely cast him a cold glance and withdrew my hand. Injured and still so restless. Aren't you afraid I might take your life? Su Kaiji immediately put on a hurt expression. like a child whose feelings had been crushed. Is this how His Majesty treats his savior? I replied indifferently, you are not seriously hurt. Rest well tonight. As I turned to leave, Tsukaiji instinctively grabbed my clothes, his voice weak like a defenseless patient. Your Majesty, you can't leave. What if Prince An sends someone to kill me tonight? I chuckled lightly. It is always up to me to decide the fate of my concubines. No one dares to stop me from leaving. Just as I finished speaking, Tsukaiji leaned closer, his tone growing more suggestive, heating up the atmosphere. But now you have me, do not you? Besides, I am not a concubine. At that moment, Tsukaiji thought he had successfully captured a Tsunere little emperor. But he did not expect his teasing to backfire, costing him dearly. The young emperor, provoked, reached out to push him away, seemingly trying to break the tension between them. But as luck would have it, his hand landed right on Tsukaiji's wound. Caught off guard, Tsukaiji's face instantly turned pale, and he let out a muffled groan. Hearing the sound, the young emperor felt a pang of regret. The memory of that night, when Tsukaiji risked his life to shield him from a blade, flashed through his mind, filling him with sudden compassion for Tsukaiji. He turned his head, trying to hide his awkwardness with a laugh, then reluctantly lay down on the bed. Seeing his proud demeanor, Tsukaiji could not help but smile even more. So cute. He reached out and touched the emperor's clothes, looking at him playfully. Your Majesty, do not you take off your clothes when you sleep. Seeing the young emperor still ignoring him, Tsukaiji felt like teasing him. His nimble fingers slid down the emperor's collarbone, just about to go under his clothes. When he was caught, the young emperor, without even opening his eyes, accurately grabbed his restless hand. If you do not want to sleep, I do not mind throwing you out to play with the assassins. Tsukaiji looked at their intertwined hands, feeling delighted. He then lay down quietly. How could he not sleep when he had the chance to share a bed with the emperor? The next morning, sunlight sneaked in, waking the young emperor. For some reason, he had slept exceptionally well. He moved, trying to get up, but found himself held in a warm embrace. He reached for the hand on his waist, trying to move it away, but suddenly heard a dissatisfied murmur next to him. The voice sounded groggy, and the person seemed half awake. He frowned in annoyance but closed his eyes again. I will settle this with you once I am healed. As he fell back asleep, the person beside him opened his eyes. Tsukaiji looked at his furrowed brows and could not help but smile, then stared at him, lost in thought. During the day, the young emperor was reviewing documents with a stern expression, looking like a storm was brewing. The old servant was so frightened that he retreated repeatedly until he saw Tsukaiji at the door and breathed a sigh of relief. The savior had arrived. He scolded the guards blocking Tsukaiji and then warmly welcomed him in. Madam Su, why are you here? You are not fully recovered yet. Tsukaiji tilted his head. She tilted her head and spoke considerately, it is no trouble. His Majesty did not rest well yesterday, so I specially made some nourishing soup for him. The old servant immediately smiled brightly. The consort is so thoughtful, please come in. Tsukaiji took the soup and brought it in himself. The others tactfully withdrew, and finally, someone thoughtfully closed the door. Greetings, Your Majesty. The young emperor raised his head slightly. What, spending the night diagnosing with me was not enough. Now you want to share a room with me during the day too, so, what exactly did Tsukaiji do last night to make the young emperor unable to sleep well? Tsukaiji bent down and placed the nourishing soup on the table. I specifically came to deliver this soup to Your Majesty. Taking advantage of his bent posture, he leaned closer to the emperor's ear. Drink this, Your Majesty, and I will give you a massage to help you relax. The emperor leisurely sipped the soup, closing his eyes comfortably under Tsukaiji's expert massage techniques. Yet, his mouth still refused to let him off easily. He snorted coldly, the culprit is here pretending to be a good person. Tsukaiji mischievously leaned closer again, his lips just a few centimeters from the emperor's ear. Apologize for keeping Your Majesty from sleeping well. Though he said this, his face showed not the slightest hint of guilt. Then he pulled back slightly, but the warm breath he exhaled still fell on the emperor's ear. Isn't this my way of making it up to Your Majesty? The emperor's sensitive ears visibly turned red. It was unclear whether he was recalling last night's events or if the waves of warm breath had flushed his cheeks. Outside the door, the old servant could hardly resist the urge to poke through the paper windows to see what was happening inside. Seeing the two blurry figures leaning close together, she was delighted and thought to herself, I have never seen His Majesty so close to any other consort before. It seems Su consort will be well cared for in the future. Tsukaiji continued to massage attentively when he suddenly heard the emperor speak. My headache is troubling me. Do you have a cure for it? Tsukaiji paused his hands and walked from behind the emperor to stand in front of him, looking at him without any hesitation. He opened his mouth and said, with the current medical conditions, I can't cure it completely. There was a loud thud, and the emperor slammed his palm on the table, staring intently at Tsukaiji. What did you say? Tsukaiji was not afraid of his threat and retorted without looking away. I said, I can't cure your anxiety for now. As soon as he finished speaking, the emperor's face darkened, showing signs of anger. Have I been too lenient with you these days? Suddenly, with a swish, he stood up from his seat. Grabbing Su Kaiji's slender neck, he threatened, "Do you really think I do not dare to touch you?" With a loud bang, the door was kicked open. The emperor, furious, lifted Su Kaiji and threw him to the ground without hesitation. "You, stay in this room and work on the medicine until you can cure my anxiety." Su Kaiji, extremely dissatisfied, let out a sound of discontent and looked at him pitifully. But this time, the emperor did not soften. After saying a few words, he turned to leave. "If you need anything, tell eunuch Joe. He will bring it to you." With that, he slammed the door shut. Su Kaiji stared at the tightly closed door and smirked. This was good. With time and tools at his disposal, he could now study the poison in his body. He took out the bottle of medicine given by Princeton and examined it. Princeton really knows how to play, he thought. The ingredients are all wrong. It seemed he needed to spend some time studying the components to formulate an antidote. Just then, Yi Sei arrived. Su Kaiji was studying the ingredients when he sensed someone outside the door. He quickly hid the bottle. The next second, the emperor pushed the door open and came in. "A day has passed. How's the progress? These two little things are so cute, don't miss out." The young emperor made a surprise inspection and asked how Su Kaiji's research was going. Su Kaiji, calm and composed, laid out the new solution he had devised. "To cure your majesty's anxiety, we first need to do an electrocardiogram and then we need. The situation requires a cardiac catheterization procedure for treatment." The young emperor closed his eyes in frustration. "Speak plainly," he said. Su Kaiji chuckled and chose to be brief. "Simply put, we need to first use a device to examine His Majesty's condition, then insert a catheter into His Majesty's body for electrical therapy." As he spoke, he tilted his head, his tone full of helplessness. "But the biggest problem now is that we do not have electricity." The young emperor looked at him in confusion, a small head full of big questions. What is electricity? Su Kaiji felt stumped by the question. How was he supposed to explain the concept of electricity to the young emperor? He furrowed his brow, thinking for a long time. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck him. "Lightning, it is like lightning." He looked at the young emperor with excitement. "You know the lightning in the sky, right?" The young emperor felt a headache coming on. He asked incredulously, "Are you saying we need lightning?" Su Kaiji rubbed his forehead in frustration. "Never mind, let us not talk about that for now." He paused before speaking again. "The simplest treatment is medication. Have you heard of nitroglycerin tablets?" The young emperor shook his wide sleeves in defiance. "Even if I have not heard of it, can't we just have someone gather the materials and make it? Is there anything in this world that I can't obtain?" "No, it is not possible." Su Kaiji felt even more helpless after hearing his words, but he had no choice but to continue trying. "This medication can't be made like traditional Chinese medicine through manual labor. It requires some machines." His subtle pause made the young emperor laugh in anger. "I have figured it out," he said. "You must not value your life." Su Kaiji, being a vengeful person, silently noted the young emperor's threat, planning to repay it someday. But on the surface, he had to maintain a shameless facade. Yes, your majesty, I have many other methods. In the meantime, I will find a way to research the machines I just mentioned." He stared at the emperor and slowly stood up. "First, your majesty needs to change some daily habits." Fearing the young emperor's anger, Su Kaiji immediately began massaging him, explaining slowly. "You can't always drink tea. Tea contains substances that can trigger heart conditions. But the herbal decoction I gave you yesterday, your majesty can drink that daily. Combined with some massages, it can reduce the frequency of your episodes." As he spoke, he moved closer, stopping at the boundary between normal and ambiguous. "Why do not we try it now?" The young emperor looked at him, puzzled. "Try what?" Su Kaiji did not respond and started the practical operation directly. His slender fingers gently touched the young emperor's chest. This light touch made the young emperor feel a strange sensation that could not be simply defined by books or symbols. Su Kaiji seemed unaware of his reaction and continued. He continued his operation while explaining unhurriedly. "For a headache, you massage the head. For anxiety, of course, you massage the chest." As he spoke, he reached out to untie the young emperor's belt. "And the massage must involve direct contact with the skin. Otherwise, it won't be effective." The young emperor's face darkened, showing a stormy expression. "Are you teasing me?" The beauty's high-profile entrance left the proud young emperor with nowhere to escape. The matter of the assassin had made no progress, and the young emperor was frustrated. He knew the assassin was sent by his dear uncle, but he could not find any evidence. He ordered with a dark expression, "Take the chief guard away and give him 30 lashes." The chief guard, always loyal and responsible, knew he had failed this time and accepted the punishment willingly. Then, the emperor took out a stack of papers, his voice cold as ice. However, during the search, some inappropriate items were found in certain people's homes. His face grew even darker, and his sharp gaze cut like invisible blades at the people before him. "Minister Zhang, do you confess?" Minister Zhang immediately fell to his knees in panic. "Your Majesty, I am guilty. I was momentarily bewitched and accepted some inappropriate gifts. Please give me another chance. Everyone always has an excuse for their mistakes. What does it mean to be bewitched? As if finding a sufficient excuse could cover up their crimes. The young emperor had heard enough of such excuses and did not want to listen anymore. He waved his hand, signaling for them to be taken away. Outside, observing quietly, Eunuch Zhou was sweating profusely. His Majesty's temper seems worse than yesterday. I need to come up with a solution. Isn't it just a quarrel with Consort Su? Couples always make up after a fight. I will add some fuel to the fire. The young emperor walked ahead, his face full of displeasure. Eunuch Zhou followed behind, selling short and hard work until they entered the imperial study. Only then did Eunuch Zhou find a chance to speak. Your Majesty seems to be in a bad mood today. Should I have the kitchen make some sweet soup? The young emperor had no appetite and waved his hand to dismiss her. You may leave. Without my orders, no one is allowed to enter today. Thinking of that restless person, he added, especially Consort Su, she is not allowed to enter. Eunuch Zhou reluctantly agreed, but in his mind, he was contemplating how to add more fuel to the fire. That night, the young emperor returned to his palace under the moonlight. As soon as he entered, he was stunned. What was with all the smoke? Curious, he walked inside and saw Consort Su, who had dressed up specially. The white smoke swirled around her, creating a beautiful picture. He looked at her indifferently, his voice emotionless. Didn't I say that no one is allowed to enter without my orders? Consort Su calmly responded. Your Majesty said no one is allowed to enter the imperial study, not the palace. The emperor pointed helplessly at the misty air. Did you do this? Consort Su smiled slightly. Obviously not. Who else but the daring Eunuch Zhou would do such a thing? The young emperor glanced towards the door, thinking he had been too lenient with him. Now he was so presumptuous. Eunuch Zhou, who was being stared at, immediately slipped away, as if his butt was on fire. I wish your Majesty and the consort a speedy reconciliation, he said as he closed the door connecting to the outside. Your Majesty, do not blame him. Eunuch Zhou was just worried about your health. Would you like a drink? Having seen black-hearted white lotuses and high-end green teas, this was the first time the young emperor encountered a high-end green sword. Looking at the composed Consort Su, he asked, so, are you planning to do what you did not do on our wedding night tonight? Consort Su closed her eyes helplessly. Why does your Majesty always think the worst of me? She poured another drink. A couple of drinks will help you sleep. Your Majesty, drink and rest early. The young emperor, remembering their last night together, blurted out. I have not finished talking yet when Su Kaiji interrupted me. Until tonight, I will sleep on the floor myself. Then he handed over the cup of wine, and the young emperor finally took it and drank. As he was savoring the wine, a refreshing scent of green tea suddenly wafted over. Su Kaiji started speaking with grievances accumulated over 8 seasons. Although my wounds have not healed yet, it is okay for me to sleep on the cold floor. The young emperor almost choked and coughed for a long time before recovering. The inner court was still diligently playing the role of green tea. As long as His Majesty can rest well, I can endure anything. Your Majesty does not need to worry about me. The young emperor was momentarily at a loss, not knowing how to react. He lay in bed but could not fall asleep, tossing and turning with Su Kaiji's words echoing in his mind. He turned over again, wondering if the inner court's body was really so fragile that sleeping on the floor would harm her. Unexpectedly, the young emperor's words seemed to be prophetic. The next day, Su Kaiji really fell ill. After breakfast, Su Kaiji kept coughing, which distressed Eunuch Zhou greatly. Su Kaiji helplessly stated that he was just coughing and it was not serious. Eunuch Zhou tearfully said that last night's strategy was very effective, but it was hard on Consort Su. His Majesty was much gentler today and did not blame her. It seems His Majesty still likes spending time with Consort Su. The two chatted back and forth, establishing a revolutionary friendship. By the way, I deliberately did not give Consort Su the medicine soup. Later, when His Majesty finishes court, let him bring it to her. Su Kaiji understood the importance of this opportunity and took the chance to ask Eunuch Zhou what the young emperor likes. Eunuch Zhou smiled broadly, showing his satisfaction with Consort Su's initiative to care for His Majesty. His Majesty likes to listen to music when he is free. Yes, music. But if you want to prepare, try to find some elegant pieces. If you choose those with overwhelming scents of rouge and powder, His Majesty will be furious. Su Kaiji listened and showed a knowing expression, noting it down. Thank you for the advice, Eunuch Zhou. Eunuch Zhou waved his hand quickly. No need, no need. In the future, I will still rely on Consort Su to take care of this old servant. It is really tough being sick in ancient times. There is no television. Without a phone, all he could do was lie down. He was planning to get up and find some fun to pass the time when the young emperor arrived. He immediately shrank back. The young emperor first coughed casually twice. I heard you caught a cold last night. He immediately straightened up, pretending to be weak. I am fine, Your Majesty. The naive young emperor immediately felt extremely guilty, and his voice unconsciously dropped. Last night. The story should not have. He found it hard to continue, so he handed over the medicine bowl and awkwardly said, drink the medicine. Su Kaiji did not take it, but instead looked up at him. Your Majesty, you might not know, but the temperature of the medicine is very strictly regulated. The young emperor, feeling a bit embarrassed, said, You do not expect me to test the temperature for you, do you? Seeing the young emperor's reaction, Su Kaiji knew he was not very willing. It seemed he needed to add some more persuasion. Su Kaiji put on a pitiful look, like a wounded puppy, and deliberately coughed twice. I will do it myself, it is fine. Even if the temperature is not right, it is not a big deal. The young emperor, with his sharp tongue but soft heart, softened again. He took a spoonful of the medicine and seriously tested the temperature. It was neither too hot nor too cold, just right. He looked up, about to say the temperature was perfect, but Su Kaiji leaned in first, grabbed the hand holding the spoon, and took the spoon into his mouth. His eyes fixed on the young emperor, seemingly conveying some ambiguous message. The young emperor could not handle the eyes filled with too much information. He stepped back several paces, angrily looking at the culprit. How dare you? Su Kaiji was not afraid of his imperial authority at all, with a slight smile on his lips. The young emperor could not handle the eyes filled with too much information. He stepped back several paces, angrily looking at the culprit. How dare you? Su Kaiji was not afraid of his imperial authority at all, with a slight smile on his lips. With a mischievous smile, he asked, Is this considered indulgent? Tomorrow, I have prepared something even more indulgent for your Majesty. The young emperor immediately turned cold upon hearing this. Didn't I order you to stay in your room and focus on studying medicine? Su Kaiji raised his face and looked directly at the person in front of him. I am not a caged bird. Does your Majesty intend to keep me locked up inside? As soon as he finished speaking, the young emperor narrowed his eyes, and an air of danger instantly filled the room. Are you trying to defy my orders? Su Kaiji quickly made a gesture of surrender. I would not dare, I would not dare. I have already informed the servants to prepare the materials needed for making medicine, he said, stroking his chin as if in thought. Besides, I do not have the tools right now. Keeping me locked up is pointless. Wouldn't it be better to find something entertaining for your Majesty instead? The next day, under the clear skies of the Jade Garden, life seemed to flourish. The young emperor, as if driven by some mysterious force, followed Su Kaiji there. He could not help but wonder what kind of tricks Su Kaiji was up to this time. Su Kaiji still remembered that eunuch Joe had mentioned the young emperor enjoyed listening to music. So, he had instructed the servants early on to find the most famous musicians in the area, thinking the young emperor would appreciate the surprise. As he thought about it, the smile on his face grew even more pronounced. When they arrived at the agreed location, Su Kaiji waved his hand grandly and pointed at the musicians. The young emperor followed his direction and looked over, his expression turning indescribable. This is the surprise you mentioned. Su Kaiji looked over in confusion, then widened his eyes even more at the sight. The musicians he had hired were all heavily powdered and garishly dressed, each one shamelessly throwing flirtatious glances at the young emperor. The young emperor closed his eyes and let out a helpless laugh, quietly observing the scene. Su Fei really knows how to kill someone without a trace. Su Kaiji was utterly mortified, feeling like he had lost all dignity. With a dark expression, he turned to the servant and asked how they had managed to find such a group. The servant explained that they had followed his instructions. Su Kaiji felt his head spinning and waved his hand, ordering them to leave immediately. So much for the surprise. Watch in amazement as the handsome Su Kaiji wins over his wife. Isn't this arrogant little emperor easy to handle? The little emperor feels a headache just looking at that pile of pickled commoners. This place is unbearable. Su Kaiji lifts his floor-length skirt and quickly follows. Your Majesty, wait for me. The little emperor, in a fit of anger, walks faster. Su Kaiji has to explain while walking that it was just an accident. But the little emperor is not having it, rubbing his aching temple. His voice remains as cold as ever. I think Su Fei really knows how to give me a headache. Su Kaiji's gaze subtly falls on the incessantly chattering crowd. How could that be? Everyone wants to please your Majesty. Who would dare give you a headache? He quickens his pace and walks ahead of the little emperor. The little emperor looks at him, puzzled, not knowing what he is up to. Suddenly, Su Kaiji stops, turns around, and bends down to look him in the eye. Every movement feels like slow motion in a movie, replaying endlessly in the little emperor's mind. Su Kaiji's voice carries a hint of teasing. Your Majesty, although you can't bear affection, the weather is so nice today. How about we take a walk? The little emperor sidesteps him, blowing off his suggestion. Who knows if Su Fei has another surprise for me? Su Kaiji immediately raises his hand in a serious gesture. Impossible, I swear there is absolutely nothing. Saying this, he steps forward and grabs the little emperor's arm, preventing him from escaping. I heard the kitchen is particularly good today. Your Majesty, come with me to check it out. Before the little emperor can react, Su Kaiji pulls him along. The maids behind them are shocked by the scene. Su Fei is so bold, clinging to his Majesty like that. If it were anyone else, they would have been dragged away and executed. Rumors spread like wildfire, and soon it became a scandal. Initially, it was just. Su Kaiji steps forward and grabs the little emperor's arm, preventing him from escaping. I heard the kitchen is particularly good today. Your Majesty, come with me to check it out. Before the little emperor can react, Su Kaiji pulls him along. The maids behind them are shocked by the scene. Su Fei is so bold, clinging to His Majesty like that. If it were anyone else, they would have been dragged away and executed. Rumors spread like wildfire, and soon it became a scandal. Initially, it was just. They say His Majesty favors Su Fei exclusively, but when the news spread to the harem, it caused a huge stir. A maid rushed in from outside, shouting, "Mistress, something terrible has happened. I just overheard that His Majesty plans to drive all the other women out of the palace for Su Fei." The rumor swept through the palace like a storm, yet the protagonist of the story remained completely unaware. Meanwhile, Princeton was waiting for his subordinate to report back, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the table. "Any new updates?" he asked. The subordinate hesitated before replying. "I heard that Su Fei was exclusively summoned by His Majesty today." Princeton raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Really? Absolutely, Your Highness. Should we proceed with further arrangements?" Princeton slowly picked up the brush on the table and began writing on the blank paper with deliberate strokes. "A few days ago, His Majesty dismissed several officials in anger, did not he? It is time to appoint some new ones. Since Su Fei is currently favored, let us assign this task to her. A shooting star streaks across the sky, but where does it go when it sinks into the sea? Where will you be? The mystery in your eyes flows into my dreams. Welcome to the commentary session of Lonely King. I am your host, Xiao Ba." Su Kaiji was leisurely strolling through the palace gardens, enjoying the gentle breeze on her face, which felt so comforting. If only she had not been bumped into, she would have been quite happy. But fate always seems to have other plans. A careless servant, not watching where he was going, collided head-on with Su Kaiji. As their hands briefly touched, they secretly exchanged something. After a moment, the servant seemed to realize he had bumped into someone important and immediately knelt down to beg for forgiveness. Su Kaiji clenched the note tightly in her hand. "It is fine, you may leave," she said. Back in her room, Su Kaiji wore a troubled expression. The note felt like a death sentence hanging over her, and she did not know how to react. Just as she was lost in thought, the young emperor arrived. She rubbed her face vigorously to dispel her worries before getting up to greet him. Yet, the anxiety lingered. The young emperor casually took a seat and noticed the distress written all over her face. She unconsciously furrowed her brows. "Why does she look so strange? Does she have something to tell me?" Su Kaiji did not know how to organize his words to explain, so he simply handed her the note. The young emperor read it but did not comment. Instead, she calmly asked Su Kaiji what he thought she should do. Su Kaiji thought for a moment. Although he knew nothing about politics, he understood that they could not hand over this position to the antagonist. As he was pondering how to answer this question, he accidentally knocked over a flower pot beside him. An idea struck her, and she took a flower from one pot and grafted it onto another plant. The beautiful flower branch bloomed just as well on the new plant. It was truly amazing. The young emperor looked at her in confusion and asked a question. Su Kaiji slowly straightened up and quietly sat down beside her, gently placing his hand on her arm. "But what I say might not be right. Your Majesty is so wise. You will surely come up with a perfect solution." As she spoke, she discreetly lowered the bed curtain and leaned in closer, pressing her body against hers. "As your Majesty's consort, I should take good care of your health." Her long, slender fingers slowly unbuttoned the outer garment, revealing smooth, flawless skin and enticing curves. How could Su Kaiji resist such an alluring figure? She leaned in closer, her heart pounding, but before she could touch her, the young emperor raised her hand to stop her. "Just stay put and take your medicine. Don't cause any trouble." Su Kaiji did not reply. She closed her eyes and savored the warmth and softness of her lips. She wondered if her gentle words were just as tender. On the fourth day of the morning court, the vacant position of minister was brought up. The ministers urged the emperor to appoint a new candidate. The young emperor seized the opportunity to present her plan, which she had carefully prepared in her mind. Someone had previously recommended Yi Chang. "What do you all think?" On the fourth day of the morning court, the vacant position of minister was brought up. The ministers urged the emperor to appoint a new candidate. The young emperor seized the opportunity to present her plan, which she had carefully prepared in her mind. Someone had previously recommended Yi Chang. "What do you all think?" The minister who spoke first seemed a bit embarrassed as he responded. He said that Yi Chang had a good reputation, but promoting him to the position of minister seemed like too big of a leap. The young emperor, with an unusual expression, agreed with the minister's words. He thought Yi Chang had the capability and was worthy of promotion. The fresh-faced, puppy-like guard whispered to Su Kaiji, "Sister, what should we do about this?" Hearing the emperor say that Yi Chang was a good candidate for promotion, Princeton could not help but curl his lips into a smirk, looking every bit like a victor. But in the next moment, his smile froze on his face. The emperor caught that subtle expression and, just as Princeton thought he had won, poured cold water on him again and again, relentlessly. Yi Chang's promotion was indeed necessary, but appointing him as minister was inappropriate. Instead, he was assigned to a position in Shangzhou. As soon as the words were spoken, Prince An's face darkened. His hands clenched tightly, his sharp nails digging into his palms, but the pain did not matter. Instead, his face burned with humiliation. This young emperor's arrangement was truly a masterstroke. He promoted Yi Qing while simultaneously rendering him useless as a pawn. After court was dismissed, Prince An called out to the emperor. The emperor turned back coldly and looked at him. "Uncle, is there something you need? Yi Qing and I have some acquaintance. Now that he has been promoted by your majesty, how about I host a banquet tonight to celebrate with your majesty and the other officials?" The emperor nodded formally, polite yet distant. "Then I will trouble you to make the arrangements, uncle. I will attend tonight." With that, he turned and left without looking back. Prince An stood there, his sinister expression still clouded with gloom. What a fool, thinking he could win. He can't even handle such a small matter, let alone assassinate the emperor. If he is useless now, he might as well be eliminated for safety. Meanwhile, Su Kaiji was completely unaware that he had already been targeted. He was just idly passing the time, oblivious to the danger creeping closer. Suddenly, without warning, the lights in the room went out, plunging it into darkness. For someone who did not know martial arts, Su Kaiji felt an added sense of unease. Danger, the bright white longsword came straight at him. He quickly tilted his head to narrowly dodge it, saving his life but failing to protect the pitifully low-chance mage. This Prince An really knows how to pick his timing. It seems this was premeditated, deliberately choosing a moment when the emperor was absent. The assassin gripped the longsword and attacked him again. Perhaps thinking that this time he was surely doomed, Su Kaiji simply gave up struggling. He even closed his eyes to comfort himself after all. It was not the first time he would died, but the pain he imagined. Instead of fear, the sound of weapons clashing rang clearly in his ears. He opened his eyes in confusion, and what he saw was the back of a long-haired man. That man blocked the assassin, then turned to Su Kaiji and gently comforted him. "Don't be afraid, Sister Fizi. Stay behind me, I will protect you." Only then did Su Kaiji see the man's appearance: clearly skinned so fair it seemed to glow, deep red hair like copper, and a puppy-like demeanor. The puppy quickly dealt with the assassins in just a few moves. He even made sure to mock them a bit afterward. "Your courage is commendable, but your skills are terrible." Then he turned to Fizi and asked, "Sister Fizi, are you all right?" Confidently, he added, "With me protecting you, Sister Fizi, you will definitely come out of this unscathed." Su Kaiji silently glanced at the strand of hair that had been cut off by the assassin earlier. He chose not to expose the boy's lie, as the boy had saved him after all. Su Kaiji could not help but wonder what this arrogant young emperor truly felt about him. Why did he always act indifferent on the surface, yet secretly send people to protect and comfort him? The secret guard sent by the young emperor was named Qingshan. He had fair skin and a soft voice, like a puppy. When Qingshan referred to the young emperor as emperor brother, Su Kaiji could not help but ask curiously, "Are you the emperor's younger brother?" Qingshan immediately shook his head vigorously. "Of course not. It is because I was trained as a secret guard from a young age. When I was little and did not understand, I started calling him that. I felt embarrassed about it later, but emperor brother is kind and does not mind, so I never changed it. I have been calling him that ever since," he said, scratching his head awkwardly. Su Kaiji stared at the ground thoughtfully. It seemed the young emperor used to be quite gentle. If it were now, he would probably just brush it off. His calm demeanor and composure surprised Qingshan. "Sister Fizi, are not you afraid of assassins? Why are you even concerned about me?" Su Kaiji raised his hand and gently ruffled Qingshan's hair. With a calm yet slightly helpless tone, he replied, "What good does fear do? Only by staying calm can you find a chance to survive." Hearing his words, Qingshan suddenly had an epiphany and gained even more admiration for him. "You are right, Sister Fizi, you are amazing." Being praised made him happy. Su Kaiji wanted to be happy, but looking at the few tragic corpses on the ground, he just could not feel any joy. Ching Zan seemed to notice his concerns, crossed his arms, and assured him that he would soon have a clean and quiet room again. After saying this, Ching Zan cheerfully began cleaning up. The scene was chaotic, and Su Kaiji's mind was a mess. He could not understand what the young emperor was thinking. On the surface, the emperor seemed indifferent to him, but secretly, he had sent people to comfort and protect him. A single "Your Majesty" snapped Su Kaiji out of his drifting thoughts. He blinked and shifted his gaze toward the door. What came into view was the young emperor, looking hurried and flustered, clearly rushing back from outside. Su Kaiji's heart softened. With a pitiful expression, he gave the young emperor a bear hug. "Your Majesty, you are finally back. I was so nervous, afraid I might never see you again." The young emperor was just as nervous and scared. Realizing that Prince An had deliberately drawn away the assassin to protect him, his heart was in his throat. He let Su Kaiji hold him without resisting, waiting for his own heart to calm down. He raised his hand, intending to pull Su Kaiji into an embrace. But the next second, he seemed to think better of it. Changing the direction of his hand, he grabbed Su Kaiji's shoulders and pushed him away. His voice remained calm, betraying no inner turmoil. It seems Qing Zan has done a good job protecting you. Su Kaiji smiled faintly. Thanks to your majesty's foresight. I did not expect that even while you were dealing with Fu Yan, you would still be thinking of me. I am so touched. The young emperor chuckled softly and removed Su Kaiji's restless hand. Speak honestly. I was not thinking of you, but of your abilities. Su Kaiji turned his head away, muttering in dissatisfaction, Your Majesty is just being stubborn. The young emperor heard this and replied indifferently, I advise you to watch your words. Right now, even your dear uncle would love to deal with you as quickly as possible. He suddenly leaned in, their foreheads touching, breaths intertwining. Even his voice carried an unavoidable trace of intimacy. It is not that I have to care about you now, it is that you need to beg me to protect you. Humans are such peculiar creatures. No matter how much she detested the other person in her heart, as long as she put on the human mask, she could smile and chat with them. But she wondered what these uninvited palace sisters would think once they knew Su Kaiji was actually a man. Last night, the sudden coldness from the young emperor made Su Kaiji anxious. This was not a good sign. She had to figure out a way to regain control. As she was pondering how to reclaim her power, those fake palace sisters arrived. She put on a smile, stood up, and greeted them warmly. Sisters, what brings you here today? T consort immediately smiled and hooked her arm around Su Kaiji's. Sister Su, you have been in the palace for quite some time now. By tradition, you should have paid your respects to us elder sisters long ago. As she spoke, T consort put on an understanding expression, but her words carried a subtle undertone. However, since you have been exclusively favored recently, it is understandable that you have not had the time. So, we decided to come to you ourselves. Su Kaiji's face showed guilt, but inwardly, she was cursing them to their ancestors. These palace dramas never lie. Not only were the schemes identical, but even the lines were practically the same. Yet, she had no choice but to deal with these boring antics. It was my oversight, sisters. Please do not hold it against me. As long as she played her part well, the title of Mother of Kindness would belong to T consort. T consort generously forgave Su Kaiji and even offered her specially prepared pastries. The group of women smiled and urged Su Kaiji to sit with them. Su Kaiji looked at the group of smiling tigers and felt a wave of disgust. But even if she was unwilling, she could not refuse. She had no choice but to sit down reluctantly. As soon as she did, T consort enthusiastically tried to feed her something. If something seems off, there is definitely something wrong, Su Kaiji thought, staying cautious. Could the pastries be poisoned? She smiled and politely declined T consort's enthusiasm, saying she could eat on her own. While Su Kaiji was being cautious, Lan consort, on the other hand, seemed completely oblivious. She grabbed a pastry and stuffed it into her mouth without hesitation. Clearly, she was a glutton and utterly naive one at that. Seeing someone start to speak, Su Kaiji leisurely picked up a pastry and began eating. Bai Peng silently observed, while consort Jane, hiding behind her teacup, curled her lips into a faint smile. However, the surface piece did not last long, as it was interrupted by consort Jane clutching her stomach and crying out in pain. Bai Peng, the dramatic performer, immediately rushed over in a panic, shouting, Sister, what is wrong? Su Kaiji, with an expressionless face, continued eating his pastry and watching the scene unfold. Wondering what kind of mischief these two were up to this time. Consort Jing weakly spoke, her voice trembling with emotion, Perhaps I ate something bad. But the pastries were freshly made this morning, and all of us ate them. They seemed fine, someone said, their gaze seemingly unintentionally shifting to the teacup. Could it be the tea? Su Kaiji took in their back and forth performance, thinking to himself, so that is why they were so enthusiastic earlier. Turns out they had this planned all along. Clearly, someone tampered with the tea. Little Emperor, when will you finally admit it? Su Kaiji silently watched them finish their act. If he interrupted now, would not all their efforts go to waste? Consort Cha hurriedly stopped Consort Lan from calling the imperial physician, specifically instructing her not to act rashly, so as not to wrongly accuse Consort Su. Which would be bad. Later, she rushed off to fetch the physician herself, completely unaware she was being deceived. The large room fell silent in an instant, leaving only the weak and voiceless Consort Jane, the seemingly anxious Consort Cha, and Su Kaiji, calmly sipping his tea as if nothing had happened. Consort Cha had not expected such an incident to occur, and yet this Su Kaiji could still drink tea so nonchalantly. Feeling a bit awkward, she spoke up. Consort Su, my dear sister, about what happened today. Su Kaiji was not someone who could be easily manipulated. Now that the act was over and the facade of peace had been torn apart, there was no need for her to keep pretending. Su Kaiji's words pierced through the last layer of pretense. I had no idea you were coming today. So why would I have prepared poisoned tea? The previously weak and feeble consort Jing suddenly burst out angrily. I have long heard that you want to drive all the women out of the palace just to monopolize His Majesty. Who knows, maybe you have been planning to poison us all along, she continued. Just as he was about to continue, Su Kaiji shot him a sharp look, making him stop. Su Kaiji, finally enjoying some peace, slowly got up and walked towards Jingfei. Sister Jingfei, where does it hurt? Is it here? As soon as she touched a spot, Jingfei exaggeratedly cried out in pain. Su Kaiji tried another spot, and Jingfei foolishly cried out again. It hurts. Su Kaiji withdrew her hand and asked, is it a throbbing pain or a stabbing pain? Jingfei, losing patience, could not help but shout, it just hurts. How can I distinguish the type of pain? Su Kaiji thought to herself. Generally, if it is food poisoning, there would be more abdominal pain and diarrhea. Stomach or liver pain is also possible. She carefully observed Jingfei. If all these areas hurt simultaneously, it could be severe poisoning. But Jingfei seems energetic, not like someone deeply poisoned. This does not quite add up. Jingfei, not understanding medicine, started to feel uncertain after hearing this. She weakly retorted, are you saying I am falsely accusing you? The news of Jingfei's poisoning in Su Fei's palace quickly spread. The young emperor was seriously reviewing memorials. A servant hurriedly ran in. Your Majesty, Consort Jingfei seems to have been poisoned in Consort Su Fei's palace. The young emperor finally looked up from the pile of memorials. What is Su Fei up to now? Even though he showed disdain, Su Fei still caught his attention. It seemed he could not continue reviewing the memorials. The self-righteous young emperor knocked over the inkstone. The harem was not on fire, but it was in chaos. It seemed like his consort had been unfaithful. When dealing with someone like Jingfei, one must use skill and technique. Su Kaiji ordered someone to bring hot water. She then attended to Jingfei again. Su Kaiji ordered someone to bring hot water. She then attended to Jingfei again. Hu Cha, but consort Jing completely disregarded her and directly slapped her down. At this moment, Cha Fei suddenly stepped in and said, oh, it is all a misunderstanding. Let us maintain harmony among us ladies. Su Kaiji forced a smile and continued pretending, this is not just any ordinary tea. This is rose tea that I specially prepared for sister consort Jing. It can enhance beauty, nourish the skin, and improve complexion. Upon hearing this, consort Jing's face turned red with anger. Are you implying that I am ugly? She retorted. Lately, she has been acting more and more out of line. Su Kaiji, however, maintained her sincere demeanor. Sister, you have misunderstood. The reason I did this is because I noticed traces of pearl powder on your face earlier. While pearl powder can indeed whiten the skin when applied externally, if you do not pay attention to moisturizing, your face can become extremely dry. Consort Jing, hearing this analysis, could not help but blurt out, it is true, my skin does feel a bit dry. Su Kaiji seized the opportunity and continued, that is why I specifically prepared this rose tea for you. It not only whitens the skin but also provides hydration, achieving two benefits at once. Consort Jing was already starting to waver. After hesitating for a moment, she slowly opened her mouth and asked, are you really being so kind? Su Kaiji explained that although she had not visited to pay her respects recently, she had always been thinking about her. After saying this, she walked past her and approached Cha Fei. She gently placed her hand on Cha Fei's face to feel her skin. Through observation and touch, she could tell that Cha Fei's skin was in good condition. However, the slightly protruding belly did not match her otherwise slender figure. Su Kaiji suggested that she drink more red bean and ka seed water regularly to reduce swelling. Upon hearing this, Cha Fei immediately beamed with joy. Her little belly had been troubling her for a long time, and now that she had found a solution, she was overjoyed. However, it was the first time she had heard of red bean and ka seed water. At this point, consort Jing could not hold back any longer and asked, where did Su Fei hooked her arms around the consort, and the reason His Majesty favors me is because of my medical skills. His Majesty interrupted several conversations. When the young emperor entered the room, he saw this scene. Su Fei, who always liked to act coy, had her arms hooked around the consort. Perhaps this scene would not have been an issue originally, but the key problem was Su Kaiji, a man. For a moment, he could not figure out who was tormenting him. He coughed twice to suppress the strange feeling in his heart, then directly got to the point, asking, I heard consort Jing was poisoned in Su Fei's chamber. Is that true? How is this palace being managed? How could such a thing happen? Hearing the young emperor ask if consort Jing was poisoned in Su Fei's chamber, Cha Fei immediately seized the opportunity to step forward. She grabbed the emperor's hand and explained that it was just a misunderstanding. Su Kaiji also stepped forward to clarify, it was indeed a misunderstanding. I was just explaining the benefits of flower tea to the two sisters. Finally, consort Jing found an opportunity to interject, Su Fei, my dear sister, is so talented. Your Majesty, you can't keep her all to yourself. Cha Fei, true to her name, immediately responded with a strong air of green tea. Yes, my sister knows so much, unlike me, who knows nothing. No wonder your Majesty likes her so much. Su Kaiji curled her lips and let out a cold laugh. Is this the extent of Cha Fei's skills? She grabbed the incessantly chattering Cha Fei and said, Sister, you are not clueless. Didn't you specifically bring pastries to see me today? The word specifically was emphasized. Cha Fei had not yet figured out what she meant when she saw Su Kaiji looking at the young emperor with a face full of grievance, saying, unlike me, who only cares about your Majesty and neglects the etiquette of the harem. The next moment, the entire room fell into an eerie silence, with only the increasingly strong scent of green tea wafting through. Consort Jing tilted her head in confusion. Was I just deceived by her seemingly innocent demeanor? Another green tea representative, who was not particularly skilled, pouted in dissatisfaction. It seemed she had met her match. Meanwhile, the central figure of the incident was focused on Su Kaiji's hand. Watching her casually hook her arm around Cha Fei made her increasingly irritated. At first, she simply found it unpleasant to look at. Later, her whole body felt uncomfortable. With resentment, she pulled the man who rarely broke the rules over to her. Su Kaiji, caught off guard, was pulled directly into her embrace. The scent that reached her nose was both cold and fiery, a contradiction in itself. The young emperor had no idea what she was thinking. He only. Knowing she did not want men to get close to those alluring women, even if they were his concubines, she secretly applied pressure with her palm to hold her down. Her gaze remained fixed on her, unyielding. Su Fei indeed needed to mind her manners. The words "mind your manners" were deliberately emphasized, carrying layers of meaning understood only by the two of them. Su Kaiji let out a faint, unclear sound. His slender fingers slowly crawled up the side of her neck, then onto her face, before boldly pressing his entire palm against her cheek. Is His Majesty jealous? The young emperor mercilessly pushed her away, aware of his own status and determined not to overstep boundaries. A sudden shout came from outside the stone door. "I am back. Jing Fei's sister, are you all right?" The words were cut short as the scene before her left her stunned. The usually cold and aloof emperor was actually embracing Su Fei tightly in public, while the two concubines standing nearby watched with resentment written all over their faces. The supreme power of the throne granted many privileges but also stripped away much freedom. The casual expressions of love that ordinary people could utter were forbidden to her, as they would become her fatal weakness. The noise from the cooking pots added to the emperor's irritation. After confirming the concubine was unharmed, he prepared to leave, throwing out a curt remark, "Since you are fine, I shall take my leave." He then grabbed Su Kaiji and walked out. Weak rays of light sneaked through the doorway, gently falling on Su Kaiji, lending a touch of romantic escapism to the scene. In this enchanting moment, Su Kaiji suddenly had a mischievous thought. She abruptly let go of the emperor's hand, and when he turned to look back, she put on a troubled expression. "Why did not you leave first, Your Majesty? I have not finished chatting with the two sisters yet." The mentioned concubines broke into a cold sweat, fearing the emperor's wrath would turn on them. The emperor turned back to look at her, his tightly furrowed brows revealing his displeasure. The hand she had shaken off still hung in mid-air, slightly open, as if waiting for her to take it again. "Don't make me repeat myself," he said sternly. Su Kaiji's gaze shifted back and forth between the emperor and the concubines, finally landing reluctantly on the concubines behind her. "You saw it too, sisters. I dare not disobey His Majesty's orders. I will have to visit your palace another day to make amends." The concubine forced a smile that did not reach her eyes. Her younger sister is so thoughtful. She knows her sister is busy. Next time, we should go visit her instead. After exchanging pleasantries, she walked over to Lan Fei. Lan Fei is young and innocent, which is rare in this scheming palace. She gently touched the fluffy head and smiled sincerely. "Next time, I will bring you something tasty." Lan Fei took the initiative to hold her hand. "Thank you, sister." After speaking, Su Kaiji placed her hand into the hand of the lonely king, who had been waiting for her. The two held hands, and swaggered out of the room. After walking a short distance, Su Kaiji suddenly let go of the lonely king's hand. The lonely king turned back with a puzzled expression, only to hear her say, "Your Majesty, it is not appropriate to walk like this holding my hand." Your concubines were all watching. The lonely king frowned impatiently, his voice carrying a hint of arrogant disdain. "Do I need to care about what others think?" His arrogant demeanor only made him more appealing. Su Kaiji's smile grew wider. "I think Your Majesty is quite Tsunere." The lonely king looked at her in confusion, his handsome brows furrowing deeper. "Tsunere, what does that mean?" Su Kaiji explained seriously, though her words were all over the place. "It is a term from my hometown. It is meant to be a compliment." The lonely king looked at her, still puzzled. "Really, your hometown's language does not sound very complimentary." Her hand subtly moved behind the lonely king's waist, firmly gripping it and pulling him closer. "Of course, it is a compliment. Your Majesty favors me so much among all your concubines, I must praise you properly." The lonely king was caught off guard by her boldness. The other person was a modern-day doctor who had traveled back in time. Her hand tightly gripped his waist, and her face moved closer and closer. Every move seemed to provoke and challenge the lonely king's tightly wound nerves. Too close. So close that her warm breath intertwined with his in an ambiguous way. The lonely king pressed his lips together and dared not move, but her domineering aura was disrupting his rhythm. He squinted slightly, unsure whether to move away or lean in closer. This hesitation gave her the perfect opportunity. A warm sensation lingered on his lips. It was undeniably hot. He felt his blood turn cold in that moment. Like a frightened rabbit, he pushed the other away abruptly, angrily waving the hand that had just been violated. He was not sure if he was shocked by the other's audacity or regretting not pushing him away sooner. Since he could not figure it out, he decided to take it out on the other person. In the midst of the crowd, they pulled and tugged at each other, disregarding propriety. Su Kaiji seemed not to hear, his hand unconsciously touching his lips to feel the lingering warmth. After a moment, he spoke. Just now, in front of everyone, why did not your majesty reprimand me? The solitary king, caught off guard, could not find a suitable reason to refute and could only glare at the other with helpless eyes. Su Kaiji reached out, stepping closer to break down his defenses. Why does not your majesty comfort the other concubines but instead pulls me away? As soon as he finished speaking, the hand covering his mouth was grabbed by the other. The solitary king was clearly still lost in the lingering warmth and could only come up with a flimsy excuse to block the other. They usually make a fuss. If you could share some of the burden, I would be relieved. Su Kaiji pondered his words seriously. Your majesty has such presumptuous concubines but complains about their fussiness. One moment pure, the next moment cunning. He gently placed a kiss on the solitary king's long, white fingers. Then he grabbed the other's hand to touch his own lips, speaking with a mischievous tone. Is it possible that your majesty likes men too? The solitary king's forehead glistened with sweat, angrily grabbing the other's collar and pulling him close, speaking the harshest words in the gentlest tone. I should have torn that mouth of yours long ago. Su Kaiji was not afraid of his empty threats, instead he leaned in closer, his heated gaze fixed on the lips that had just been kissed. Don't just tear my mouth, you can tear my clothes too. The solitary king was infuriated by his shamelessness. This person was too arrogant. He needed to find a way to curb his arrogance, lest he continue to act recklessly. Unconsciously, he squinted, calculating his next move. How about, let him and those troublesome concubines torment each other? Su Kaiji was very displeased with his distraction. He moved closer and asked, what is His Majesty thinking about? I am right in front of you, and you can still be distracted by something else. Really, this lonely king clearly likes his husband's outfit today. Just look at those wolf-like eyes and you will understand. Yet, he still mischievously teases the man. On the day of the public banquet, the concubines in the palace were all dressed up. Only Su Kaiji, being a man, was dressed simply, with just a single hairpin for decoration. He looked at the group of concubines and felt a headache. Such tacky aesthetics. Fortunately, the lonely king does not like such gaudy things. He sent the maid away and wanted to go out for some fresh air. After wandering around the palace for a while, he realized something was wrong. He had not paid attention to the path he was taking because he was upset, and now he was lost. He looked around, trying to find the way to the banquet, but to no avail. He had no sense of direction. The palace banquet was busy today, and there were very few people on the road. He could not even find someone to ask for directions. Suddenly, he remembered the secret guard Qingshan who had saved his life before. He wondered if Qingshan was still hiding in the shadows, protecting him. Holding onto a glimmer of hope, he called out to Qingshan in the dark. But before he could get a response, he was interrupted by a stranger's voice. Ah, which family's young lady is lost here? Su Kaiji turned towards the voice and saw a gentleman as gentle as jade. He was handsome and elegant. Su Kaiji discreetly observed the stranger, who then remembered to introduce himself. With a gentle smile, he said, I am the sixth prince of the palace. My name is Jingqing. He lowered his eyes slightly and softly called out, Sixth prince. She introduced herself to the other party, saying, I am His Majesty's consort. My surname is Su. The other party apologized profusely and bowed slightly. Consort Su, my apologies. I thought you were one of the young ladies attending the palace banquet. Recalling his earlier hesitation, he politely asked if she had lost her way. Su Kaiji realized that it would be difficult to find anyone else at the moment, so she asked the sixth prince if he could escort her. The sixth prince nodded slightly. Of course, I can. I was heading to the banquet anyway. It would be my honor to accompany you, your ladyship. Thus, the two teamed up halfway to the banquet. Along the way, the sixth prince remained composed and courteous. He even maintained a respectful distance, showing no impropriety. The banquet was already lively, but the king seemed uninterested, idly staring at the entrance as if waiting for someone. When he saw the two arrive together, he froze for a moment. Why are they coming together? The two respectfully saluted the king seated at the head of the table. Greetings, your majesty. Greetings, royal brother. The king waved his hand dismissively, signaling them to rise. Su Kaiji's attire today was not extravagant. Compared to the other consorts, it could even be called plain. Yet, her slight smile seemed to outshine everything in the world, captivating the man seated at the head of the table. The king stared at her intently, his Adam's apple involuntarily moving. Today, she was alluring. He tapped the table beside him, the meaning clear. What are you standing there for? Come and sit. The other consorts watched her take a seat beside the king with envy and bitterness. Unable to hold back, they decided to cause trouble. Oh, Sister Su, did you forget today is the palace banquet? Dressing like this is embarrassing His Majesty. These two men did not bother to compete for dominance or submission, yet Su Kaiji's casual appearance was enough to captivate the king completely. But beneath this gentle and elegant appearance lies a hidden, untamed beast. Shortly after taking his seat, Princeton hurriedly arrived. Apologies, Your Majesty. I was delayed by some urgent matters. I hope Your Majesty can forgive me. The king responded politely, it is no problem. The banquet grew increasingly lively. The concubines in the palace began to showcase their talents one by one. Su Kaiji was just about to comment on how talented and versatile the concubines were, but in the next moment, Jingfei announced that it was his turn to perform. His mind went blank for a moment. He stiffly turned his head to look at the person beside him, who was propping up his chin and watching him with a mischievous grin. For some reason, Su Kaiji found this expression incredibly alluring, adorable, and tempting at the same time. He leaned closer, resting his head on the other shoulder, his tone soft and almost coquettish. The king turned his head, gently lifting Su Kaiji's chin. His warm fingers lingered teasingly on Su Kaiji's lips. Didn't I tell you to be prepared? Tell me, did not I? Su Kaiji pouted slightly and gave him a resentful glance. But Your Majesty, you did not say what I should prepare. The king let go of him, but the smile on his lips grew even more pronounced. As my consort, do I really need to spell everything out for you? He wanted to retort confidently, of course, but the gazes from all around weighed on him, leaving him speechless. Resigned, he sighed and began to think about what to do. Meanwhile, the king leisurely sipped his tea, curious to see how Su Kaiji would resolve this predicament. Suddenly, Su Kaiji's eyes landed on the table, where there was some milk wine and strong liquor. He had an idea. He borrowed the wine vessel from the king, which had been a tribute from the Snow Kingdom. I am not good at dancing, he said, so I will perform a magic trick for Your Majesty and everyone instead. He poured the crimson flower petals into the vessel as a base, then added the clear strong liquor. The audience below began mocking him, saying that Consort Su was ignorant and trying to fool them with such a simple trick. Su Kaiji, however, remained unfazed. Despite their interference, he continued his activities unperturbed. Next, it was time to witness a miracle. He injected the liquid from the small vial into the large one, and the scene in the large vial immediately changed, depicting a jellyfish. The courtiers below were all stunned. Applause filled the entire hall instantly, and even the king's eyes showed a hint of amazement. Su Kaiji held the cup and offered blessings to the king, wishing him eternal peace and prosperity. The look in his eyes clearly said, I have won this round. Soon, a servant came in to report that the fireworks were ready. The king invited everyone to join him in enjoying them. The next moment, he found himself caught in a dispute among women, giving him a headache. The king had not been troubled for long before Su Kaiji pulled him away. Your Majesty, it is too crowded here, which might cause breathing difficulties and anxiety. It is better to come with me. The king, caught off guard, fell into his embrace like a rabbit falling into a trap. From this heart-pounding scene, it was unclear how far their relationship had progressed. The fireworks feast had already begun, but the king did not enjoy the noisy and chaotic scene. His frown deepened, and at this moment, someone who could not read the room came to disturb him. He turned around, ready to scold the person, but upon seeing it was Su Kaiji, his anger dissipated instantly. He did not even resist when Su Kaiji held his hand, letting himself be led through the crowded crowd. Accompanied by the fireworks, they arrived at an empty upstairs area. After walking for a while, the king pretended to be angry. The fireworks are not over yet, and you just dragged me away. What kind of behavior is this? Su Kaiji did not even turn his head and continued to lead him. The fireworks won't stop just because you are not there. Only when they found the best viewing spot did Su Kaiji stop. Your Majesty, do you think you could watch the fireworks peacefully in that kind of place? The colorful fireworks were freely displayed, their mixed colors, through the crowded crowd. Accompanied by the fireworks, they arrived at an empty upstairs area. After walking for a while, the king pretended to be angry. The fireworks are not over yet, and you just dragged me away. What kind of behavior is this? Su Kaiji did not even turn his head and continued to lead him. The fireworks won't stop just because you are not there. Only when they found the best viewing spot did Su Kaiji stop. Your Majesty, do you think you could watch the fireworks peacefully in that kind of place? The colorful fireworks were freely displayed, their mixed colors, filling the sky. It was reflected in both of them, and every firework seemed to bloom in the lonely king's eyes. The chaotic emotions in his heart became more subtle. Despite spending so many years in the palace, this was his first experience like this, strange, yet not repulsive. He could not help but turn his head slightly to look at the man. At this moment, all the distracting thoughts seemed to fade away. Su Kaiji suddenly turned his head unexpectedly and caught the gaze that the king had no time to retract. Your Majesty, why are you looking at me instead of the fireworks? As the other person drew closer, the lonely king seemed to hear his own heartbeat pounding fiercely, like the fireworks bursting passionately, boom, 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 endlessly. Two soft lips finally met, entangled amidst the boiling life and fireworks. After a long kiss, Su Kaiji reluctantly let go of him, his cheerful tone betraying his current mood. Your Majesty, you did not resist me this time. The lonely king turned away, blushing, but was pulled into an embrace by the other person. His sensitive ears were brushed by the hot breath the man exhaled. Eventually, he was lightly bitten, a sensation indescribable spreading through his body instantly. Su Kaiji gently turned the shy lonely king back to face him. I have a question I have always wanted to ask your Majesty. I hope you can answer me truthfully. The lonely king hesitated but allowed him to continue. Su Kaiji slowly leaned closer. I have always wondered what is your Majesty's name. The lonely king suddenly became serious. How bold of you. My name is not something you can casually call. Su Kaiji's hand lightly brushed over his chest. In my hometown, married couples call each other by their names or affectionate nicknames. As he spoke, his gaze fixed firmly on the person before him. Even if I can't call you by your name, at least I should know it, should not I? Jingxi, the lonely king replied. And as he said his name, he reached out to tuck a strand of his hair behind his ear. I do not care how you behaved before, but in this imperial city, you must follow the rules. If you dare to call my name casually, you will lose your head. Su Kaiji leaned closer, so close that their noses almost touched, their breaths intertwining and pulling at each other. Then, can I call you by your name when it is just the two of us, for instance, in the deep night, in the palace bedchamber, the lonely king. This time he was indeed a bit domineering and handsome, but the position below was still his. Su Kaiji truly lived up to being someone from modern times who traveled to the past. His openness was different. He directly asked if he could call him by his name when they were alone, especially in the late night in the bedchamber. On the bed, the king could not withstand his enthusiasm, blushing slightly and stepping back half a step to create some distance. But how could Su Kaiji let go of such a delicious king? He stepped forward half a step, reducing the distance between them to zero, with a heated gaze, unhesitatingly falling on their slightly flushed faces. Your Majesty, you really blush easily, do not you? The two flirted as if no one else was around, completely unaware that they had been discovered. From a distance, the sixth prince watched the two figures, filled with motherly love, in a bit of a daze. It seemed like it was the first time his elder brother had done such a thing, something a bit out of the ordinary. He lightened his steps and slowly walked towards them. Brother, your Majesty, it is time to return to the banquet. The king, with a rough voice, did not turn to look at him, his face seemingly full of resistance. Why is it you? The sixth prince respectfully explained. Eunuch Zhou is busy over there and could not come, so I came instead. He then kindly reminded, a few ministers were displeased with your and Su Fei's actions earlier. They might have a few words to say later. The king felt a pang in his heart but did not show it. Such trivial matters were not for them to manage. Sure enough, as soon as they returned to the banquet, they saw those ministers waiting for him with serious expressions. He told the two behind him to wait there while he went alone to deal with the rude accusations. As soon as the king approached, the ministers began, Your Majesty, the banquet is not over yet. How could you leave early? Another minister immediately chimed in. Your Majesty, ignoring so many guests to leave alone with a consort, this is. Listening to their accusations, the king frowned. I only left for a short while, there is no need to exaggerate. The minister, seeing that he was not listening, continued, Your Majesty must prioritize important matters. You must not be swayed by trivial things. He continued talking to himself. Your Majesty must prioritize important matters. You must not be swayed by trivial things. He looked like he was scolding a misbehaving child. Su Kaiji wanted to twist his head off and use it as a ball. The next second, the two ministers were frightened by the king's roar. One roar made them tremble uncontrollably. The king sneered and said, What, I was only gone for a quarter of an hour, and the banquet can't go on without me. Can't you eat or drink without me? You put the blame on me every time something happens. Isn't that a bit too hasty? At this moment, Prince An walked over, trying to mediate. Your Majesty, do not be angry. They're just worried about you. The king's sharp gaze turned to the newcomer, glaring at him. I wondered why they dared to speak like this. So they were passing on a message from the emperor's uncle. The king had the appearance of a ruler but lacked the demeanor. His consort, Su Kaiji, could subdue him in a second. Taking advantage of their confrontation, Su Kaiji and the sixth prince quietly sneaked away. Su Kaiji thought his escape plan was flawless, not knowing the king had already seen through his little trick. The two of them walked and chatted along a path, away from the battlefield. The sixth prince turned back, just about to say something, but he did not watch his step and fell backward. In that moment of falling, the sixth prince's mind went blank. Fortunately, Su Kaiji was quick to catch him, or he would have had a close encounter with the cold ground. The warmth from Su Kaiji's hand on his waist spread to his face. The sixth prince, feeling a bit embarrassed, lowered his head and moved a step back to a safe distance before asking, Are you worried about His Majesty? Su Kaiji was lost in thought. When he heard that it was the first time the king had done something so out of line, Su Kaiji was visibly stunned. The first time? Why is the king in others' eyes so different from the one in mine? The king in my eyes is not like that at all. He was an obedient person who never stepped out of line. With an unsolved mystery in his heart, he stepped into the emperor's bedchamber, dozing off by the bedside as he waited for the king to return. When the king came back and saw him, his footsteps unconsciously became much lighter. Yet, those barely audible footsteps still clearly reached Su Kaiji's ears. He opened his slightly drowsy green eyes. Your Majesty, you are back so late. The king slowly approached him, feeling a bit elated but keeping a calm demeanor. Were you waiting for me? Su Kaiji, with a voice still hoarse from sleep, murmured a response and easily leaned on the king's shoulder, pulling him closer. After all, this is my duty. Naturally, I must be the first to care for your Majesty. The king chuckled softly with a hint of disdain. Don't worry. They won't get the chance to question me. Su Kaiji, with a smile at the corner of his lips, leaned closer to the king's ear. Really, then why did I hear that your Majesty has been quite obedient lately? The warmth of his breath and teasing words tested the king's tightly wound nerves. The king pushed him away slightly, giving the stifling atmosphere of intimacy a brief outlet. Did Jing Qing tell you that? Su Kaiji chuckled softly. No, I dreamed about it. At this, the king suddenly became jealous. He looked at Su Kaiji with a displeased expression. I have not even asked you yet, where did you go halfway through, leaving your emperor behind? Su Kaiji answered nonchalantly, nowhere. Just went for a walk, chatted a bit, and admired the moon. The king, dissatisfied, grabbed his hand and pulled him into his arms. My consort, casually chatting and admiring the moon with another man. Su Kaiji looked at him with amusement. Your Majesty, are you jealous? I am teaching you the rules, the king retorted stubbornly. A bickering king was truly amusing, but what was the point of just bickering? Su Kaiji directly pushed him onto the bed. The conspiratorial glint in his eyes bored deeply into the king's. Ambiguous words followed. Do you need me to promise that, from now on, I will only walk, chat, and admire the moon with you? As he spoke, he deliberately leaned close to the king's ear. His voice soft and teasing. Hearing his name, the king's heart suddenly raced, and a blush quickly spread across his cheeks. At that moment, his threats seemed even more ineffectual. Feeling powerless, you will pay the price for being so reckless. The other party was unmoved and lazily asked, oh, what price? This is a comic where readers see the protagonist as a benefactor. Someone should press those two buttons, with some distance between their heads, just like now when the two are lying on the bed together. The king's back is against the bed frame, and in front of him is the audacious Su Kaiji. The king slowly lifts his eyelids and looks at the person on top of him. When Uncle Huang left today, I saw his expression. It seems something is about to happen. The person on top raised an eyebrow indifferently. Oh, then your Majesty should be careful. Seeing his nonchalant attitude, the king threatened with a frown. You should say that to yourself. You probably won't have peaceful days ahead either. The other party provocatively raised an eyebrow. Those green eyes, filled with too many thoughts, stared at him, seemingly trying to see through him. Would your Majesty be willing to let me be in? Danger. The king did not answer immediately, closed his eyes and thought for a while before gently pushing the person away. You should fend for yourself. The weather was very good on the fourth day. Su Kaiji, who did not get the king's assurance, planned to go to the library to find a way to save himself. Prince An is preparing to stir things up, and he won't get his key. Since he mainly studies Western and Chinese medicine, he needs to check the information and catch up. But something unexpected yet predictable happened. He was stopped at the door because of his status as a woman. It seems this dynasty is still very feudal, and the notion that women without virtue are talented has not been eliminated. He tried to use reason to persuade the guard, but the guard was stubborn and refused to let him in. It was really frustrating. This scene happened to be seen by the sixth prince from afar. He could not help but chuckle. He is still as astonishing as ever. The guard was still arguing with Su Kaiji, refusing to let him in no matter what. The prince quickened his pace and walked forward. What if I vouch for him? Su Kaiji stopped arguing and turned to look beside him. The guard was still arguing with Su Kaiji, refusing to let him in no matter what. The prince quickened his pace and walked forward. What if I vouch for him? Su Kaiji stopped arguing and turned to look beside him. The sixth prince greeted her politely. Su Kaiji casually replied, what a coincidence, we meet again. But then she wondered, why does she always run into this guy wherever she goes? Could it be that he installed a camera on her? The sixth prince was unaware of her wild thoughts. He politely looked at the guard and asked, may I go in? The guard immediately replied, of course. Everyone in the palace knows His Highness loves reading. His Highness often visits the library, so naturally, you may enter. The guard nodded, but the sixth prince then asked, what if I bring her in with me? This time, the guard refused to let them pass. The sixth prince's expression darkened immediately. The emperor has never explicitly forbidden women from entering the library. It is just an unwritten rule. Besides, this lady saved His Majesty's life with her exceptional medical skills. She is no ordinary person. Someone like her wanting to read medical books, there is no reason to deny her entry. As a married woman, Su Kaiji managed to charm two innocent men in one day. Truly worthy of being the Grand Master. In the end, Su Kaiji successfully entered the library. However, what happened inside was beyond her expectations. She could not understand the characters in the books at all, so she had to seek help from the person who entered with her. To her surprise, the other person quickly agreed to her request. The sixth prince joked, of course I will help, but how will you repay Jingqing, your grace? Su Kaiji playfully lifted his chin with the scroll in her hand, leaned in slightly and teasingly asked, "What does the sixth prince want? Just say it." The sixth prince froze for a moment, then his face flushed red. He gently pushed away the scroll and turned his head abruptly. His voice softened as he said, "Your Grace, let us leave it for now. When Jingqing thinks of something, I will come find you to settle it." On this side, their interaction was harmonious. But on the other side, the lonely king appeared even more desolate. He had not seen Su Kaiji all day, and his frustration grew. He ordered his servant to summon Qingchuan. The highly skilled Qingchuan arrived quickly. "Brother Emperor, what do you need from me? Any updates today?" Qingchuan touched his smooth little face. Fizi Gigi went to the library with Prince Jingqing today. So far, nothing unusual has happened, and there is no sign of Prince N's actions. After hearing his report, the lonely king furrowed his brows even deeper. Alone with Jingqing, Qingchuan does not know why he asked this question deliberately, but he still answered honestly. "Is there a problem?" he asked again. Prince Jingqing seems calm and composed. "He should not harm Fizi Gigi, right?" The lonely king huffed angrily, flicking his sleeve in frustration. A sour suspicion flashed across his face. He definitely won't harm her. He might even take good care of her. Hearing this, Qingchuan was even more confused. Isn't it a good thing that someone is taking care of Fizi Gigi? Then why does the emperor look so unhappy? The lonely king sighed almost imperceptibly and said to him with a heavy heart, "You are still young. Some things you will understand in the future." After saying this, he dismissed everyone. Once the others left, the lonely king's expression darkened even further. "It seems I need to keep a closer eye on this younger brother of mine." Meanwhile, Qingchuan frowned as he looked at the manuscript Su Kaiji had carelessly left behind. "What kind of script is this? Why have I never seen it before?" With no other choice, he took the manuscript to find Su Kaiji. By this time, it was already late. Without beating around the bush, he directly explained his purpose to Su Kaiji. "Today, I saw Fizi Gigi's manuscript in the library, but I have never seen the characters on it before. Could it be that Fizi Gigi is from a foreign land?" Su Kaiji glanced at the Chinese characters on the manuscript in his hand and froze for a moment, caught off guard. Then, he could only make up a serious-sounding excuse. "I have never been to school. I only apprenticed under a wandering doctor, and this is the script my master taught me. I only realized yesterday that our scripts are not the same." The naive Qingchuan was quickly fooled. Su Kaiji found this innocent young man rather endearing. He raised his hand and lightly tapped Qingchuan's nose. "It is getting late. Now that you have got your answer, you should head back. You should rest early." The little one blushed all over after a bit of comfort. I am not resting. Sister, you should rest early. I will stay outside and protect you well." After saying that, the little one ran out with a red face. Su Kaiji's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Kids are so easy to appease. A cunning predator not only takes the initiative to strike but also guides its prey into its own trap. As for Su Kaiji's shameless words, the king was already used to it. He took the water and drank a big gulp. A warm current flowed through his body, making him feel much better. "You only dare to act so arrogant at times like this," the king remarked. Su Kaiji casually took his teacup and spoke directly. "Your Majesty, do you know what you just did?" "What?" He sat down on the bed without a change in expression and gently pulled the other person into his arms. Yet, his eyes were filled with a teasing glint. "Your Majesty just called me Daddy, and held onto me, saying how much you missed me." The king's face immediately darkened with anger. He raised his hand, intending to teach the insolent man a lesson. But before his hand could land, it was caught and twisted behind his back. His slender waist was also restrained. "Your Majesty, you might not be able to handle me right now. Perhaps wait until your body recovers before trying to make a move." The king's face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. "Do I need to pick a day to deal with you?" Su Kaiji could not help but chuckle. Do ancient people really say lines like this? His restless hand moved from the king's waist upward, leaving a trail of heat wherever it passed. Finally, it stopped on the king's chest. The weight of his body also pressed down slightly on the other person. "Not only do you need to pick a day, but you also need to consider the situation," he said, suddenly lowering his head. The distance between the two of them shortened in an instant, and the ambiguous atmosphere filled the entire space. "For example, right now, it seems like it would not be impossible for me to deal with your Majesty." The king turned his head and took a deep breath. He took a deep breath. What she meant by taking care of herself was obviously not the usual kind. Just as he was thinking about how to respond, the person on top of him suddenly got up and retreated to a safe distance. The king, still in a daze, heard her say, "Taking advantage of someone in a vulnerable state is not my style. Your Majesty, please rest well." With that, she waved her hand and was about to leave. "I will temporarily lend this room to your Majesty. I will go somewhere else to prepare the medicine." Upon hearing this, the king immediately became alert. "What do you mean by lending it to me? Everything in this palace belongs to me, including you." Su Kaiji sighed helplessly. Yes, you are sick, so whatever you say goes." The next day, as usual, the king was taking a walk in the palace when Su Kaiji suddenly appeared and grabbed him. "Your Majesty, come with me." The king did not resist. "Where to, acting so recklessly, what are you thinking?" The king was a bit surprised. With a look of mild disinterest on his face, he still let himself be led to the so-called surprise destination. Su Kaiji brought him to a pavilion and mysteriously lifted the curtain. Ta-da! The king was momentarily speechless as he looked at the table full of items in front of him. What is this? Su Kaiji was evidently very pleased with this little surprise. After sitting down, he enthusiastically began to introduce, "This is called hot pot. It is a specialty from my hometown, and I specially prepared it to surprise your majesty. All of this is for you." The king, surprised that there was a delicacy he did not know about, listened to him. Su Kaiji just smiled slightly. "The world is so vast, can your majesty guarantee to know every local custom?" He took out the finest piece of meat and did not forget to remind the king how to cook it to enjoy its deliciousness. The king stared at the piece of meat in his hand. He let out a soulful question, "Do I really have to do this myself?" Then he crossed his arms, looking as if he would starve if no one helped him. This little emperor was truly adorable and charming. Su Kaiji immediately accepted his fate and worked hard without complaint. He carefully dipped the best meat into the sauce but then started to think about tofu. "Do you need me to feed you, dear?" The other person did not respond, just grabbed his hand and brought it to his mouth, eating in this easy manner. The meat was indeed delicious, more flavorful than any he had ever tasted. But Su Kaiji told him not to praise it yet, as the main event was still to come. He placed a cup of wine in front of the emperor, who took a sip and immediately started coughing. It took a while for him to recover. "Why does this wine taste different from what I usually drink?" "Because it is mixed with several different wines. This way, ordinary wine has a unique flavor. Hot pot goes well with wine." Soon, the emperor was drunk. Su Kaiji took the opportunity to get closer. His voice, now hoarse from the wine, became even more seductive. "I have always wanted to ask you, your majesty, what kind of person do you think I am?" The drunken emperor pondered seriously. "You are someone I have never met before. I have been in the palace for so many years and met all kinds of people. Most of the time, I can tell what they are thinking with just one look. But you, I can't see through you at all. Clearly, you are someone close to my uncle, yet you seem to be on my side." Su Kaiji felt a string in his heart being gently plucked. He softly embraced the emperor. "Your majesty, you must be joking. I am your consort, so naturally, I belong to you." The alcohol was taking its toll, and the emperor's eyes reddened unconsciously. He even reached out to pinch Su Kaiji's chin lightly. "What consort? How can a man be a consort?" As soon as he finished speaking, the other person responded fiercely. The warrior approached himself, the gentle yet intense breath instantly surrounding him. But the sparring between their lips was forceful and fiery, neither willing to back down, only to entangle and sink together. The gentle evening breeze slowly blew, and the king heard the others' greeting carried by the wind. The inner voice said, "My heart, my being, all belong entirely to your majesty." The king, soft and tender after drinking, was truly endearing. How could Su Kaiji resist such a lure? He leaned his entire body towards the other, his lips seeking that soft spot. Once they met, they passionately entangled. The cool evening breeze slowly blew, but their bodies were intensely hot. Only when the other was completely weak and unable to support himself did Su Kaiji reluctantly carry him inside. Whether it was the lingering effects of the drink or the recent intoxication, the king's face was flushed, unsure if it was surprise or shyness. Su Kaiji did not know if he could still understand his words, so he spoke naturally, "Take off your clothes before sleeping, or you will smell like alcohol." As soon as he finished speaking, the king raised his hand, seemingly waiting for someone to help him change. He looked so obedient like this. Su Kaiji could not help but reach out and touch his little head, his gaze gentle and affectionate. "If only you were this obedient all the time," he thought. The drunken king fell into a deep sleep as soon as he touched the bed. Su Kaiji quietly stayed by his side. "Because you are here, my once dull life does not seem so unbearable anymore," he thought. He reached out and gently caressed the other's face. "I really want to take you to my hometown," he said, but before he could finish, his hand was grabbed by the other. Caught off guard, Su Kaiji lost his balance and fell forward, ending up in the embrace of the little drunkard. The distance suddenly shortened, and Su Kaiji could clearly see her furrowed brows. He gently rubbed them with his long fingers. After a long while, the tightly furrowed brows finally relaxed. Su Kaiji lay down and pulled the person beside him tightly into his arms. Living alone in this deep palace must be very lonely. Right, there is no one trustworthy, and even less someone to confide in, just like he used to be. His 3 meals a day were always by himself. His parents were too busy to care for him. Every time he brought up school parent-child activities, his mother would reject him outright. The reason was always the same excuse: "Dad has surgeries to perform, and Mom has meetings she can't miss." Su Kaiji had been rejected so many times that he became numb to it. He could not figure out whether parent-child activities were unimportant to his parents or if he himself was unimportant. Every time he saw other kids with their parents, he felt like there was a missing piece in his heart, leaving him feeling empty. He wished he could be like those kids and have his parents by his side all the time, but he knew that was nothing more than a luxury. He tucked away those feelings of weakness and, being very sensible, explained the situation to his teacher. The teacher sympathetically patted his little head, seemingly expressing pity for his situation. The gazes directed at him from those around him only made him feel more embarrassed. The laughter of children and adults echoed clearly in his ears, while he could only sit alone below, silently watching these things that had nothing to do with him. The beauty you have been waiting for finally dressed in men's clothing, but because of coming out, there will be a little bit of awkwardness. Tsukaiji enjoyed listening to soft music through his headphones while reading. To him, it was a rare pleasure. That day, as usual, he listened to music and read. Suddenly, his mother stormed over angrily, directly snatching his headphones and ending his good mood for the day. Why are you such an inconsiderate child? Wearing headphones all day long, guests are here, and you do not even know to greet them. Tsukaiji slowly lifted his gaze from the book. You can greet them yourselves, can't you? They are not here to see me anyway. Sus' mother was clearly very dissatisfied with his response. How can they not be here to see you? Their daughter is the same age as you, and studying medicine, wanted to have a chat with you. Tsukaiji sneered and snatched back his headphones. Did you ask for my opinion? Did you ask if I wanted to meet? Do I have to put on a fake smile and welcome everyone who comes? Sus' mother sighed helplessly, as if she were trying to educate an incorrigible child. Now that they are here, the girl seems easy to get along with. She is gentle and loves to smile. Having a chat won't hurt you, Sus' mother said. Tsukaiji pulled a forced smile with a blank expression. Fine, let us talk. Following her parents' wishes, she walked over to the girl. The girl's face did indeed look as gentle and cheerful as her mother had described. But so what, she was not interested anyway. Still, she sat down beside her out of politeness. I heard you wanted to have a chat with me. The girl hugged the pillow in her arms tightly. Ah, yes. I heard you are always the top in your exams. I wanted to ask if you have any tips. Faced with such a boring attempt at conversation, Tsukaiji did not bother to engage much. She replied with a faint smile, just use your hands. The girl was stunned for a moment by her response but quickly recovered, putting on a sweet, innocent act. Wow, you are so amazing. Can you teach me? Tsukaiji did not answer directly. She counted her slender fingers and looked at the girl. I can teach you. Normally, it is 300 per session. For acquaintances, there is a 20% discount. In truth, she was not short on money. She just did not want to deal with such boring people and conversations. She wanted to send the girl away quickly. As expected, upon hearing Tsukaiji's offer, the girl immediately stood up and found an excuse to leave. The parents on both sides chatted at the door for a while before dispersing. After the door slammed shut, Sus' mother started lecturing her again. Regarding her parents' pressure to marry, she maintained her usual indifferent attitude. But this time, her parents were not planning to back down. We are not saying you have to get married right after graduation, but you are not young anymore. You have never even been in a relationship. You should interact with girls more, her mother said. Tsukaiji's face remained as nonchalant as ever, but there was a hint of seriousness in her demeanor. Perhaps, maybe. There is no possibility. I do not like girls. As soon as those words fell, the entire room plunged into an unprecedented silence. Father Sus' expression showed signs of disbelief. Do you know what you are saying? What kind of talk is this? Tsukaiji calmly stated that he knew exactly what he was saying. The next second, Father Sus' slap landed on his face, leaving a clear red mark on his fair skin. It turns out that not all love is accepted by society. At least in this matter, Tsukaiji faced strong opposition from his biological parents. Since you were not part of my early life, why interfere in my later life? Tsukaiji was infuriated by his parents' attitude. They always used work as an excuse to intervene in his affairs under the guise of parental authority. He gently brushed the spot where his father had slapped him, his voice as cold as a machine devoid of emotion. I was not joking when I said I do not like girls. He realized his orientation during his internship when he met a doctor named Yi Ming. Whenever he encountered troublesome female patients, Yi Ming would always appear in time, naturally taking the record book from his hands and completing the remaining examinations. At first, he thought Yi Ming was just overly kind, but later he realized that Yi Ming was very confident in his abilities, and rightfully so. Over time, he discovered that Yi Ming was not only exceptionally good-looking but also outstanding in every aspect. Tsukaiji did not dislike him. Besides wanting to surpass him, he also had a desire to possess him. As the internship was coming to an end, he called Yi Ming out and confessed without giving him any time to prepare. Yi Ming's face showed a hint of surprise. Tsukaiji did not give him a chance to react, his slender fingers gripping Yi Ming's collar as he spoke seriously. I am not drunk, nor am I joking. His slender fingers gently brushed against the other's crisp white collar. I have seriously confirmed it with myself. I have been confessed to by someone of the same sex. Yet, Yi Ming remained calm as ever, even managing to ask him coolly if it was because he had helped him before. Tsukaiji shook his head slightly, not entirely. You are outstanding in every way, so outstanding that it is captivating. Yi Ming chuckled softly. To be recognized by someone as exceptional as you, I feel truly honored. But I am sorry, I am straight. Hearing the response, Su Kaiji only felt a bit disappointed but not surprised. What did surprise him was Yi Ming's unwavering composure throughout. To this day, he still remembers Yi Ming's words from that winter conversation. He said, "Any form of sincerity deserves respect. Although I can't reciprocate your feelings, at the very least, I should not let your courage go to waste." Perhaps Yi Ming's reaction was too calm, making him think this matter was not unacceptable. Until his mother, in a near frantic tone, said to him, "How do you expect others to see me and your father in the future if you are like this? So, for the sake of your so-called reputation, do I have to change my orientation?" Su's mother's unyielding expression, in his eyes, was as good as an admission. In a fit of anger, he left home alone, dragging his suitcase behind him. But if he had known that leaving then would mean never having a chance to reconcile, maybe he should have at least said something like, "Take care of yourselves. Another emperor has fallen." Drunk in chaos. Pulling up his pants and pretending nothing happened. Which one is the real lonely king? When the lonely king sobered up, the sky was already bright and clear. He gently moved away the hand that was holding him down. The scenes from last night surged back like a tide. He only remembered drinking a lot last night, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not recall what had happened afterward. His head was pounding terribly. Suddenly, a hand reached out and pushed him back onto the bed. Su Kaiji stared at him intently. "What, you woke up and are planning to sneak away?" The king replied discontentedly. Do I need to report to you when I get up?" Su Kaiji lifted his chin and leaned in closer. "Of course not, but if your majesty plans to pull up your pants and deny everything, then it concerns me." The king, with reddened eyes, pushed him away. "How dare you?" Su Kaiji raised an eyebrow indifferently. "Is your majesty unwilling to take responsibility for last night?" The king calmly lifted the curtain. "Not to mention, I did nothing last night. Even if I did, it was just me fulfilling my marital duties with my consort." One moment he was calm, the next moment he turned around and inwardly cursed. Damn it. He had actually been with a man. And he belatedly realized that he did not seem to mind it that much. But as soon as this thought emerged, every cell in his body screamed. This terrifying thought troubled him all day. No matter how much ink he spilled on the paper, he could not understand why he did not mind being intimate with a man. And in this situation, it seemed like he was not even the dominant one. The brush in his hand snapped in two with a loud crack. It was infuriating. As the supreme ruler, he had been overpowered. Unaware of the situation, Eunuch Joe kept running into the line of fire. "Is your majesty's headache acting up again, or is there some other discomfort? Should I call Consort Su?" Just the mention of Consort Su made the king furious. He slammed the table. "Get out, go find the king." The consort selection cards were presented. Eunuch Joe was about to make arrangements when he suddenly heard the king specifically add, "Remove Su Kaiji's card." He thought he must have been momentarily bewitched. But his gaze lingered on the pile of cards, circling them several times without deciding whose card to flip. The lively antics of Consort Jing and Consort Cha were too much to handle. Seeing them was practically inviting trouble. Consort Lan, on the other hand, was a quiet and composed figure. The king sighed deeply and decided to summon her for the night. After a while, the obedient and demure Consort Lan arrived. She greeted him as she usually did, but the king stopped her. Then the two of them stared at each other in silence for quite some time. Eventually, the king broke the awkwardness, saying, "Why are you standing there like a statue? I summoned you to serve me." Hearing his words, Consort Lan became flustered, unsure of what she was supposed to do. Later, the king realized something: she did not like men nor women. She only liked Su Kaiji. She could not tolerate intimacy with anyone else. At first, she thought she was merely bewitched, which was why she did not resist being close to Su Kaiji. That night, the king summoned Consort Lan seemingly to confirm something. But once things veered off course, they could not be undone. The summoned Consort Lan was too naive, not even knowing what she was supposed to do. It seemed the king had to take the initiative. He reached out, wrapping his arm around her slender waist, pulling her into his embrace. Sitting in such an intimate position, his heart remained calm, as if he were completing a task in a dream. Could it be that I am the problem? He murmured, leaning in slowly. But just as he was about to close the gap and feel her warmth, he stopped. Consort Lan was indeed adorable and endearing, but why could not he bring himself to kiss her? In other words, so why could she kiss Su Kaiji so easily? Even the chief inspector could not figure it out. But this situation made it impossible to continue working. Her body reacted faster than her mind and pushed him away before she could even process it. Caught off guard, Lan Fei fell straight to the ground. She rubbed the sore spot where she landed, looking aggrieved. "If your majesty dislikes me and does not want to teach me, fine. But you did not have to throw me to the ground." The chief inspector rubbed his temples, realizing he had indeed gone too far. "On the table, there is the special pastry you have been wanting to eat for a long time. Take some back with you." Hearing there was food, Lan Fei instantly perked up, her earlier grievances vanishing completely. Really, the emperor's woman is so lucky. She eagerly reached for the special pastry, her enthusiasm making it clear she was a foodie through and through. Finally getting to taste the special pastry, Lan Fei was overjoyed. Humming a tune, she walked out, leaving the chief inspector alone to ponder deeply. Could it be that she can only accept Su Kaiji's closeness? Why is she the exception? The simple-minded Lan Fei still did not understand the emperor's intentions. Normally, the emperor would summon Sister Su Fei, so why did he summon her tonight? Could it be that Sister Su Fei was sick? Since she was passing by anyway, she decided to check on her. Sister Su Fei, hearing the call, Su Kaiji immediately came out to greet her. Lan Fei, why are you here? Lan Fei first looked her up and down before speaking. You are not sick. Then why did not the emperor summon you today and summon me instead? Su Kaiji lowered her head slightly. The emperor asked you to attend to him. Yes, but he did not do anything. He just let me eat a few pieces of pastry and then sent me back. Hearing this, Su Kaiji's mood instantly brightened, her smile growing uncontrollably. She then curved her lips meaningfully. So that is how it is. Although Yuyong Palace had not been officially cleansed, Su Kaiji had never missed an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. When Su Kaiji arrived at the emperor's bathing quarters, the chief inspector was soaking in the bath. The eunuch outside was about to announce her arrival but was stopped by Su Kaiji. She planned to surprise him. She gently pushed open the door and Chunyu wanted to serve His Majesty, and the maid did not understand what she was up to, but still followed her instructions. The maid said as usual, Your Majesty, I am here to assist with your bath, and then was called out by Eunuch Zhou. Fearing others might not understand and disturb the people inside, Eunuch Zhou carefully closed the door for them. Su Kaiji deliberately slowed her steps as she walked in. She thought her plan was flawless, not realizing that the inspector had seen through it the moment she entered. But to cooperate, the inspector still closed her eyes. Su Kaiji saw her like this and smirked. Her mind immediately filled with many colorful images. Waves of yellow thoughts surged. She picked up a towel and carefully wiped the inspector's body, starting from the alluring collarbone, then sliding down to the firm chest muscles, and further down to the neatly arranged 8-pack abs. Just as she was about to go lower, the inspector grabbed the wandering hand. That is enough. Su Kaiji raised an eyebrow in surprise. Your Majesty knew it was me. Then why did not you say anything earlier? The inspector's ears turned slightly red, but she still tried to maintain her composure, putting on an arrogant look. Are you trying to act presumptuous? Su Kaiji lowered her head slightly to meet her eyes. I heard Your Majesty just called Lan Fei and then sent her away. As she spoke, she leaned closer, so close that she could kiss her hair with a slight tilt of her head. But Su Kaiji did not move further, only asking, why? The inspector pushed her away a bit. What, you know everything about who I see? She suddenly grabbed Su Kaiji's collar and pulled her closer. Is Su Fei jealous? Su Kaiji would never easily admit she was jealous. Her tone became even more playful. I am just worried that Your Majesty might have some hidden illness. As she spoke, she glanced down with a hint of mockery. If Your Majesty is too embarrassed to tell the imperial physician, you can tell me. I know a bit about treatments. The inspector suddenly stood up, her unguarded body exposed to the air and completely in Su Kaiji's line of sight. But she showed no signs of nervousness or discomfort. Instead, she started to tease. Su Kaiji approached with a humid warmth lingering around her, provocatively pinching the other's chin, her gaze fearless as she met his eyes. You do not know that your old friend has no hidden illnesses. If two people want sweetness and longevity, one of them must inevitably sacrifice for love. Su Kaiji's provocation successfully ignited the other's desire. The officer swiftly dressed, his actions deliberate as he pushed Su Kaiji toward the bed. But just as they reached the edge, his hand was suddenly restrained by her. Alarm bells rang in his mind, sensing that something unexpected might happen in the next moment. Sure enough, Su Kaiji reversed the situation in an instant, pinning him down on the bed and successfully taking the dominant position. I have already told Your Majesty, I am not accustomed to being underneath. The officer's temples throbbed intensely. Neither am I, he replied. Hearing his words, Su Kaiji felt a mix of frustration and helplessness. Finally, she suppressed her inner desires and lay down beside him. Ask yourself, can you truly not accept this? Seeing no response from him, she continued teasing. Then why has Your Majesty never truly pushed me away? She gently brushed his long hair by his ear, her gaze tender enough to melt. I remember everything Your Majesty said during the last episode, she murmured, pulling him closer. From now on, Your Majesty will never be alone. The atmosphere was filled with warmth and affection, perfect for something to happen. Yet Su Kaiji did not want to force him, instead following her heart and leaning closer. If he was unwilling, he could push her away at any time. In the end, the officer did not push her away. Their soft touches seemed to convey unspoken feelings. After a long moment of tenderness, Su Kaiji finally released his lips, replacing them with a gentle touch of her nose against his forehead. I will always stay by your side, as someone you can trust and rely on. For a brief moment, the officer was stunned. In the depths of the palace, no one had ever said such words to him. Be it the concubines or the courtiers, they feared his high status while coveting his supreme power. Yet only this person before him had promised to be someone he could trust and depend on. Su Kaiji was unaware of his inner turmoil. Her voice remained as gentle as before. Aside from that matter, I can respect you in everything else, Inspector. The inspector's eyes showed a mix of excitement and unease. Can I really trust you? Seeing the excitement and unease in the other person's expression made him feel deeply distressed. Su Kaiji gently caressed his face in a soothing manner, his gaze more serious than ever before. Since I have said it, I certainly won't deceive your majesty. The inspector finally smiled after receiving the promise. It was at that moment he realized that he could be so easily satisfied. The two exchanged gentle glances for a moment before embracing and falling asleep. It was destined to be a peaceful, dreamless night. In the comic featuring the two male leads, Sho seems quite submissive, which is understandable. But why does Prince N, a villain, appear even more submissive? Recently, there have been several consecutive days of heavy rain, causing severe flooding in many areas. Thus, disaster relief and water management are especially urgent. Prince N stepped forward voluntarily, taking initiative. In previous years, I have always handled this matter. This year, I will take full responsibility again. The once easily manipulated emperor was no longer the same. The inspector's cold gaze fell upon him, even his voice carried a sense of oppression. Disaster relief is exhausting and laborious. Uncle has worked hard for so many years. This year, the Ministry of Revenue has a new official taking office. I think it would be better to assign him to gain some experience, and also ease some of the burden on Uncle. A new official was about to step forward voluntarily, but Prince N subtly blocked him. Hold on. Your Majesty may not be aware, but disaster relief is extremely complex. Without experience, it would be very difficult to handle properly. With the words spoken to this extent, if the inspector still could not see through his intentions, he probably would not have survived until now. But now, he was determined not to be a puppet anymore. Everyone starts without experience, do not they? If this requirement were enforced, would not the court never have fresh blood? As soon as the words fell, Prince N's face darkened like the bottom of a pot. It seemed the puppet was about to break free and lose control. His plan to use disaster relief as a cover to embezzle funds was about to fall apart. With so many eyes watching in the court, if he continued, he might end up being criticized. So, he pretended to agree and nodded. Your Majesty's words and arrangements, I will follow them entirely. Putting on a facade of being a kind mentor, he looked at the new official. If there are any issues, feel free to come to me for guidance. While his outward image was carefully crafted, his heart was already filled with venom, wishing he could dispose of the emperor immediately. Once back at Prince N's residence, his true colors were revealed. With no outlet for his anger, Prince N could only throw a punch. He slammed onto the chair. The young emperor's words made Feng Yu feel difficult to control. Today, he began to act foolishly. He absolutely could not allow such uncontrollable things to happen again. If the young emperor thought he could kick him out like this, he was too naive. A subordinate nearby immediately laughed and echoed, Your Highness, the emperor's wisdom is not even 1/10 of yours. Prince N did not expose this flatterer. After all, he greatly enjoyed such flattery. After listening to his subordinate's praise, he asked, How many of the local administrators we previously cooperated with are still in office? The subordinate seriously checked his notebook. Most of them are still in office. Only one position has been transferred, and 2 were scapegoated for mishandling flood control. Prince N's eyes curved with determination. Since you want to send others to manage the water, I will give you a big gift. Send someone to manage it as before. The subordinate immediately understood and left the scene after acknowledging the order. A great storm was quietly brewing. It turned out that the supreme ruler of Aojiao only longed for a word of praise from his husband. Su Kaiji sat alone in the pavilion, watching the scenery and listening to the rain. The falling rain not only washed away misunderstandings but also calmed people's minds. The beauty of the rainy world fascinated him. Just as he was about to return to his palace, Jing Si seemed to stop. In the rain, why was that person still looking for him? He was still dazed in the pavilion. Jing Si lifted the curtain with a mosquito net. Why are you staying here in such heavy rain instead of inside? Su Kaiji was initially stunned to see him, then patted the bench beside him, signaling him to sit down. After Jing Si sat down, Su Kaiji slowly spoke, the sound of rain is natural white noise. It has a calming effect. Seeing the other's furrowed brows, he gently touched them. Don't frown all the time. It makes you age faster. Jing Si did not respond, but pulled his hand to his chest, closing his eyes to feel the calming effect he mentioned. Raindrops fell on the already rippling puddles, making a soft sound. Jing Si's furrowed brows gradually relaxed. He could imagine that after many days of continuous rain, he would start to feel uneasy again. Because the rain came down fiercely, some areas are already experiencing severe flooding. Who knows how much loss of life and property this disaster will cause again? The most important thing is the lives of the people. This matter feels like a heavy stone pressing down on Jing Si's chest, making it hard to breathe. Su Kaiji slowly shook his head. Although the court always allocates funds for disaster relief immediately after flooding, less than 1/10 of it actually reaches the people. Jing Si's lips curled into a faint, mocking smile. You really dare to say anything? Aren't you afraid of losing your head? Afraid? I even dare to offend His Majesty. Why would I fear offending anyone else? The other party showed no fear of his empty threats and instead teased him with interest. Jing Si crossed his arms and fell into contemplation. In the past, his good royal uncle was always sent to manage flood relief, but this time, the funds probably ended up in his pockets. How could they reach the people? So, this time, Gu decided to send someone else to handle the flood relief efforts, hoping the allocated funds would truly reach their intended destination. As he spoke, he glanced at Su Kaiji beside him. What do you think of my decision? The rain fell as usual, calm and steady, but his peculiar and intense gaze completely enveloped him. Su Kaiji understood his expression, which was seeking praise, and generously complimented him, calling him wise and heroic, with decisions that were always precise and flawless. Don't ask why two grown men were lying on the same bed. Of course, it was to chat under the covers. To avoid being mesmerized, the two merely held onto towels and fell into silence. Jiyu Wang stared at the person opposite him for a while before breaking the eerie silence. Speak. What plans does An Wang have next? Su Kaiji looked at Jiyu Wang innocently. Whether His Majesty believes me or not, I truly do not know. Jiyu Wang snorted softly, leaving it unclear whether he believed him or not. Outside, the assassin watched as the guards had already fallen completely. Estimating that the timing was right, he pushed the door open and sneaked inside. The blanket on the bed was bulging, as if someone was hiding underneath. The assassins exchanged glances, and the leader drew his sword to stab the blanket. However, before the blade could fall, it was suddenly knocked away by an external force. Jiyu Wang secretly used the blanket to disrupt the assassin leader's stance and then swiftly incapacitated him with a single move. He dodged, but his face remained expressionless. Clearly, this was not his first time dealing with such situations. He dared to play tricks in front of the Lord. The other assassins were panicked seeing their leader fall, but they had no way out and could only fight on desperately. Su Kaiji, lying on the bed, was secretly observing the fight. Although he could not see the situation clearly, he knew this was a good opportunity to gain the Lord's trust. So he started making plans in his mind. The Lord was focused on dealing with the assassins and had no time to pay attention to Su Kaiji, nor did he expect that Su Kaiji had been eyeing the assassin behind him. He did not expect Su Kaiji to suddenly rush in front of him and take a blow for him. The cold blade mercilessly pierced Su Kaiji's flesh, and the pain instantly overwhelmed his mind. He could not help but cry out in pain. The Lord's eyebrows furrowed tightly. He supported Su Kaiji and swiftly dealt with the last assassin. Su Kaiji stared blankly at the fallen assassins, his shock momentarily overshadowing the pain. He did not expect the young emperor to be such a skilled fighter. Before he could finish coughing up blood, it was already spilling from his mouth. The Lord's brows furrowed even deeper, and his tone was harsh. With such little skill, do not rush to throw your life away. Su Kaiji closed his eyes in pain, his voice weakening. I saw your majesty being ambushed and had no time to warn you, so I had to save you this way. Then he reached out and grabbed the Lord's clothes, clutching tightly as if afraid he would run away. I almost lost my life for your majesty. You won't abandon me, will you? After that night, news spread throughout the palace that the newly arrived consort Su was moved into Yangming Palace for his meritorious service in saving the emperor. The palace was once again filled with intrigue and scheming among the concubines. But the protagonist of the story, Su Kaiji, was unaware of it all. After this incident, he decided to take some time to rest and recover. Just then, a sharp voice interrupted him. Prince An said, Su Kaiji, you came early enough. Then he switched to a mocking tone. The next second, Prince An pushed open the door and entered. Su Kaiji immediately put on a frightened look as he stared at the visitor at the door. Prince An, why are you here? The Lord never thought that one day he would. Because of his soft-heartedness, Su Kaiji ended up sharing a bed with the monk from South Africa to gather information. Could he really be a magic needle? Suddenly, the sinister Prince An paid an unexpected visit. Su Kaiji had no choice but to switch to his useless mode and tread carefully. To lower the prince's guard, he decided to play the victim. Thankfully, he narrowly escaped with his life. If the sword had been just 2 inches off, he might never have seen the prince again. With just a few words, the sinister prince An dismissed all the servants. Once everyone had left, Su Kaiji immediately grabbed the prince's robe in a panic, his voice trembling and hurried as if sped up. Your Highness, please forgive me. I had no choice but to come up with this plan. He then looked at the prince with a pitiful expression. His Majesty is too cautious. He did not even drink the wedding wine. As soon as he came in, he grabbed my clothes. I had no chance to make a move. Hearing this, the prince merely smiled. No matter. His Majesty has always been careful. As he spoke, the prince took out a small bottle from his robe. You did well. Don't be nervous. I am not here to hold you accountable. This is a top-grade wound medicine. Apply it to your injury to speed up healing. Keep it. After expressing a few words of concern, the prince turned to leave. This young emperor is proving to be more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Yesterday, he barely avoided disaster. As he walked away, he glanced back discreetly. However, this person cannot be fully trusted yet. He must find an opportunity to eliminate him. Time quickly passed, and night fell. The solitary king took a stroll around the palace. When he reached Yangning Palace where Su Kaiji resided, he paused. The old servant who had served him for years immediately stepped forward with a warm and ingratiating smile. "Your Majesty, are you planning to stay at Yangning Palace tonight?" The solitary king frowned in displeasure. "What, do I need to report to you about what I want to do?" The old servant quickly shook his head and waved his hands. "No, Your Majesty, I would not dare. It is just that for matters like this, I need to send someone to make arrangements and record it in the palace log." The solitary king waved his hand dismissively and said, "No need," then headed straight toward Yangning Palace. Watching the king's direction, the old servant could not help but feel overjoyed. Has His Majesty finally come to his senses? All those concubines before, and he did not favor a single one. It was driving me crazy. King Ji directly got to the point. "Your good uncle came to see you today." What did he say? To some extent, King Ji and he could be considered allies, so Su Kaiji did not hide anything. He did come, just said a few words of concern. He would not be foolish enough to make bold statements in the palace, right? King Ji picked a plum. "What did he give you?" Seeing his worried look, Su Kaiji proactively leaned in. When he spoke, his words carried a hint of flirtation. "If Your Majesty is worried, you can search me yourself." Fearing he might be embarrassed, Su Kaiji directly took his hand and placed it on himself. "There are not many places on me where I can hide things. You will know with just a touch." King Ji just glanced at him indifferently and withdrew his hand. "Injured, and still restless. Aren't you afraid I will take this opportunity to kill you?" Su Kaiji immediately put on a look of a wounded child. "Is this how Your Majesty treats your savior? You do not seem to be in much trouble. Rest well tonight." As he was about to leave, Su Kaiji instinctively grabbed his clothes, his voice weak like a defenseless patient. "Your Majesty, you can't leave. What if Kingdom sends someone to kill me tonight?" King Ji chuckled. "Only I decide the fate of my consorts. No one dares to stop me from leaving." As soon as he finished speaking, the other leaned in, the flirtatious tone heating up the entire space. "Isn't there someone now? Besides, I am not a consort." Su Kaiji did not expect his teasing to backfire. The young emperor, provoked, reached out to push him away, seemingly to break the flirtatious atmosphere. But coincidentally, he pushed right on Su Kaiji's wound. Su Kaiji's face turned pale from the sudden pain. Hearing his muffled groan, the young emperor felt a pang of regret. The scene of Su Kaiji shielding him from a blade flashed in his mind, making him feel even more sympathetic towards Su Kaiji. He turned his head to hide his unease, then pretended to be forced. He lay on the bed, looking proud and stubborn. Just this once, seeing his arrogance made Su Kaiji's smile grow wider. Quite adorable. He reached out to touch the emperor's clothes, then looked at the little proud one with a playful expression. "Go to sleep, no need to take off your clothes." Seeing that the young emperor still ignored him, Su Kaiji suddenly felt like teasing him. His nimble fingers slid down the emperor's collarbone, about to explore further when his hand was caught. Without even opening his eyes, the young emperor firmly grabbed his restless hand. "If you do not want to sleep, I do not mind throwing you out to play with the assassins." Su Kaiji looked at their intertwined hands, feeling quite amused. He then lay down obediently. Sharing a bed with His Majesty was an opportunity he could not pass up. The next morning, sunlight sneaked in, waking the young emperor. For some reason, he felt particularly at ease after this sleep. He moved slightly, intending to get up, but realized he was held tightly in a warm embrace. He reached for his waist, trying to remove the offending hand. Just as he attempted to move the hand away, he heard a dissatisfied mumble from beside him. The voice sounded sticky and sluggish, and the person looked half awake. The young emperor frowned in frustration but closed his eyes again. "Once I am healed, I will settle the score with you." As the young emperor closed his eyes and fell back asleep, the person beside him opened his. Su Kaiji looked at the emperor's furrowed brows and could not help but smile. He then stared at him, lost in thought. During the day, the young emperor was reviewing documents, his face dark with frustration. He looked like a storm was brewing, scaring the old servant into retreating repeatedly. Only when Su Kaiji appeared at the door did the servant breathe a sigh of relief. The emperor scolded the guards blocking Su Kaiji at the door and then warmly invited him in. "Su Niang, why are you here? You are still recovering." Su Kaiji tilted his head thoughtfully and replied, "It is nothing. You did not rest well last night, so I made some tonic soup for you." When the soup was delivered, the old servant immediately smiled with joy, her eyes crinkling. "The empress is so thoughtful, please, come in quickly." Su Kaiji took the soup and carried it in himself. Everyone else tactfully stepped out, and he thoughtfully closed the door behind them. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The young emperor lifted his head slightly. "What, sharing the consultation with me was not enough, now you want to visit me during the day as well. So, what exactly did Su Kaiji do last night to keep the emperor awake?" Su Kaiji bent down and placed the soup on the table. I specifically brought this soup for your majesty. He leaned closer to the emperor's ear under the guise of bending down. Drink up, your majesty. I will give you a massage to help you relax. The emperor leisurely sipped the soup, closing his eyes comfortably under Tsukaiji's expert massage techniques. However, his mouth remained sharp. He let out a cold snort. The culprit is here pretending to be a good person. Tsukaiji mischievously leaned in closer, his lips mere centimeters from her ear. Apologize for keeping your majesty awake. Though he said this, there was not a trace of guilt on his face. Then, he pulled back slightly, but the warm breath he exhaled still brushed against the emperor's ear. Isn't this my way of making it up to your majesty? The emperor's sensitive ears visibly flushed red. It was unclear whether it was due to memories of the previous night or the waves of warm breath. Outside the door, the old servant was itching to tear down the barrier and see what was happening inside. Seeing the two blurred figures leaning close together, she smiled with satisfaction. I have never seen His Majesty so relaxed with any other consort before. It seems Su consort will be well taken care of in the future. Tsukaiji continued his dedicated massage. Suddenly, the emperor spoke. The headache is troubling me. Do you have a cure for it? Tsukaiji paused his massage and walked from behind the emperor to face him directly, meeting his gaze without hesitation. With the current medical conditions, I cannot cure it completely. The emperor slammed his hand on the table in anger, staring intently at Tsukaiji. What did you say? Tsukaiji, unafraid of his threat, met his gaze head-on. I said, I cannot cure your heart condition for now. As soon as he finished speaking, the emperor's face darkened, showing signs of anger. Have I been too lenient with you these past few days? With a sudden motion, the emperor stood up and grabbed Tsukaiji's slender neck, threatening, Do you really think I won't harm you? The door was kicked open with a loud bang. The emperor, furious, lifted Tsukaiji and threw him to the ground without hesitation. Stay in this room and work on the medicine until you can cure my heart condition. Tsukaiji, extremely dissatisfied, let out a sigh and looked at him pitifully. But this time, the emperor did not soften. He said a few words and then turned to leave. If you need anything, tell eunuch Joe. He will bring it to you. With that, he slammed the door shut. Tsukaiji stared at the golden door and smirked. This is good. With time and tools, I can study the poison in my body. He took out the medicine bottle given by Prince In and looked at it. Prince In really knows how to play. He said it is a golden window medicine, but the ingredients are all wrong. It seemed he needed to spend some time studying the ingredients to create an antidote. Just then, Yi Sei arrived. Tsukaiji was studying the ingredients when he sensed someone outside the door. He quickly hid the medicine bottle. The next second, the emperor pushed the door open and entered. A day has passed. How's the progress? The little emperor asked, inspecting Tsukaiji's research. Tsukaiji calmly presented a new solution he had prepared. To cure your majesty's heart condition, we first need to do an electrocardiogram. Then, depending on the situation, we may need to perform cardiac surgery. The young emperor closed his eyes in frustration. Tsukaiji chuckled and chose to keep it brief. In simple terms, we need to first check His Majesty's physical condition with a device, then insert a catheter and use electricity. He tilted his head, his tone full of helplessness. But the biggest problem right now is, we do not have any electricity. The young emperor looked at him with a puzzled expression, his small head full of questions. What is electricity? Tsukaiji felt stumped by the question. How was he supposed to explain the concept of electricity to the young emperor? He furrowed his brows and thought for a while, then suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Lightning, yes, it is like lightning, he said excitedly, looking at the young emperor. You know the lightning in the sky, right? The young emperor listened, feeling a headache coming on. He hesitantly asked, Do you mean we need to capture lightning? Tsukaiji sighed helplessly. Forget it, let us not talk about this for now. He paused before continuing, the simplest method is to take medication. Have you ever heard of 90% salicylic acid eardrops? The young emperor shook his wide sleeves defiantly. Even if I have not heard of it, can't we just find the materials and make it? Is there anything in this world that I, the emperor, cannot obtain? Hearing this, Tsukaiji felt even more helpless but had no choice but to continue. This medication is not like traditional Chinese medicine that can be made by hand. It requires some machines. His subtle pause made the young emperor laugh in anger. After all this talk, it seems you do not value your life. Tsukaiji, being a vengeful person, silently noted the emperor's threat, planning to repay it someday. But on the surface, he had to maintain a shameless demeanor. Yes, your majesty, I have many methods to treat you. In the meantime, I will work on finding the machines I mentioned. He stared at the emperor and slowly stood up. First, your majesty needs to change a daily habit. Fearing the emperor's anger, Tsukaiji quickly started massaging him and then slowly explained the reason. You can't always drink tea. Tea contains substances that can trigger your condition. But the herbal medicine I gave you yesterday can be taken daily. Combined with some massages, it can reduce the frequency of your episodes. He leaned closer, stopping at the boundary between normal and ambiguous. Why not try it now? The young emperor looked at him in confusion. Su Kaiji did not answer and started the practical operation directly. His slender fingers gently tapped the young emperor's chest. This light touch made the young emperor feel a strange sensation that could not be easily defined by words. Su Kaiji seemed unaware of his reaction and continued. He continued his practical operation while explaining slowly. Is this headache caused by massaging the head? Of course, it is by massaging the chest. As he spoke, he skillfully reached for the young emperor's belt. And this massage must involve direct contact with the skin. Rubbing through clothes won't work. The young emperor frowned, his face darkening like an impending storm. Are you teasing me? The beauty made a grand entrance, watching the proud young emperor struggle. There was no progress in the matter of the assassin. The young emperor was frustrated, knowing well that the assassin was sent by his dear uncle, but he could not find any evidence to deal with him. With a dark expression, he ordered, take the chief guard away and give him 30 lashes. The chief guard knew he had failed in his duty and accepted the punishment willingly, bowing his head. The emperor then took out a stack of papers, his voice cold as ice. During the search, we found some inappropriate items in certain households. His face darkened further, and his sharp gaze felt like invisible blades piercing the people before him. Minister Zhang, do you plead guilty? Minister Zhang immediately fell to his knees in panic, begging for mercy. Your Majesty, I was momentarily possessed and accepted some inappropriate gifts. Please give me another chance. This time, the emperor had a ready excuse for his mistake. What do you mean by possessed? It seems like you think a good enough excuse can cover up your crimes. The young emperor had heard too many such excuses and did not want to listen anymore. He waved his hand and had the man taken away. Outside, Duke Zhou, who had been secretly observing, was sweating profusely. His Majesty's temper seems even worse than yesterday. I need to come up with a plan. Isn't it just a quarrel with Consort Su? Couples always make up after a fight. Let me add some fuel to the fire. He happily walked ahead, while Duke Zhou followed with short, hurried steps. It was not until they entered the imperial study that Duke Zhou found a chance to speak. Your Majesty seems to be in a bad mood today. Should I order the kitchen to prepare some sweet soup? The young emperor now. No appetite at all. How could I eat? I told them to clear the table and leave. You can go now. Without my orders, no one is allowed to come in today. Thinking of that restless troublemaker, I specifically added, especially Consort Su, she is not allowed to enter. Zhou Gonggong looked helpless. He reluctantly obeyed but was already scheming how to stir up more trouble. That night, the young emperor returned to his sleeping quarters under the moonlight. As soon as he entered, he froze. What was with all this swirling smoke? Curious, he walked inside and saw Su Kaiji, who had dressed up deliberately. The white smoke curled around her like a painting of a beauty. He looked at her indifferently, his voice emotionless. Didn't I say, without my orders, no one is allowed to come in? Su Kaiji responded calmly, Your Majesty said no one could enter the study, but you did not say no one could enter your sleeping quarters. The emperor pointed at the drifting smoke with resignation. Is this your doing too? Su Kaiji smiled faintly, of course not. At this point, who else could have done it besides the audacious Zhou Gonggong? The young emperor tilted his head toward the door, thinking Zhou Gonggong had truly been spoiled by his leniency. Now he was acting so brazenly. Caught off guard, Zhou Gonggong immediately fled, as if the wind carried him away. Wishing Your Majesty and the consort a swift reconciliation, Su Kaiji naturally closed the door connecting to the outside. Your Majesty, do not blame him. Zhou Gonggong was only worried about your health. How about a drink? After witnessing countless scheming women, this was the first time the young emperor encountered someone so sophisticated. He stared at the composed Su Kaiji and asked with a soul-searching tone, What is this? Are you planning to do tonight what you did not do on our wedding night? Su Kaiji closed her eyes helplessly. Why does Your Majesty always think so poorly of me? As she spoke, she gracefully filled the wine cups. A couple of drinks will help you sleep better. Have some, and rest early. The young emperor recalled their last time sharing a bed and immediately blurted out, I won't sleep with you. Before he could finish, Su Kaiji interrupted, I know. Tonight, I will sleep on the floor myself. She then handed him the wine cup. Finally, the young emperor took the wine cup and started drinking. As he was savoring the wine, a refreshing scent of green tea suddenly wafted towards him. Su Kaiji, looking aggrieved, spoke up, Although my injury has not healed yet, I do not mind sleeping on the cold floor, Your Majesty. The young emperor almost choked and coughed for a long time before recovering. Su Kaiji continued to play the role of the considerate concubine, as long as Your Majesty can rest well. I do not mind at all. Please do not worry about me. The young emperor was momentarily at a loss for how to respond. The young emperor lay in bed but could not fall asleep. He kept tossing and turning, his mind filled with Su Kaiji's words. He turned over again, thinking about how delicate Su Kaiji was. Could she really get sick from sleeping on the floor? Unexpectedly, the young emperor's words seemed to be prophetic. The next day, Su Kaiji indeed fell ill. After the morning meal, she kept coughing, which made eunuch Zhou feel very distressed. Su Kaiji helplessly explained that she just caught a cold and it was nothing serious. With tears in his eyes, Eunuch Joe said that last night's strategy was very effective, but it was hard on Consort Su. His Majesty was much gentler today and did not blame her. It seems His Majesty still likes spending time with Consort Su. As they chatted, they developed a camaraderie. By the way, I deliberately did not bring any medicine for Consort Su. When His Majesty finishes court, let him bring it to her. Su Kaiji, knowing the importance of seizing the opportunity, took the chance to ask Eunuch Joe what the young emperor liked. Eunuch Joe, smiling broadly, seemed very pleased with Consort Su's proactive concern for His Majesty. His Majesty likes listening to Qin music in his leisure time. Qin music, yes, but if you want to prepare it, try to find something elegant. If it is too gaudy, His Majesty will be furious. Su Kaiji listened and nodded in understanding. I will remember that. Thank you for the advice, Eunuch Joe. Eunuch Joe quickly waved his hand. No need to thank me. In the future, I will still rely on you, Consort Su. Being sick in ancient times was really unbearable. Without TV or a phone, there was nothing to do but lie down. He was just about to get up and find some entertainment to pass the time. The emperor arrived, and his alliance shrank back again. The young emperor coughed twice unintentionally, trying to appear composed. I heard you caught a cold last night, he said. Immediately, he adjusted his posture, putting on a frail appearance. No, I am fine, Your Majesty, he said innocently. The young emperor suddenly felt extremely guilty, and even his voice softened unconsciously. Last night. The story should not have. He could not bring himself to finish the sentence and awkwardly handed over the bowl of medicine. He stiffly said, drink it. Su Kaiji did not take it. Instead, he raised his face to look at him. Your Majesty, you may not know this, but the temperature of the medicine must be strictly controlled before drinking. The young emperor frowned in disbelief and said, you do not mean to ask me to adjust the temperature for you, do you? Adjust the temperature personally? What kind of new trick is this episode pulling? Su Kaiji glanced at the medicine bowl handed over by the young emperor and calmly repeated. Your Majesty, you may not know this, but the temperature of the medicine must be strictly controlled before drinking. The young emperor hesitated and said awkwardly, you do not mean to ask me to adjust the temperature for you, do you? Judging by his reaction, it was clear he was not too willing. It seemed some extra persuasion was needed. Su Kaiji put on a pitiful expression, like a wounded puppy, and deliberately coughed twice. I will do it myself. It is fine. Even if the temperature is not right, it is okay. The sharp-tongued but soft-hearted young emperor relented again. He scooped up a spoonful of medicine, put it in his mouth, and seriously tested the temperature. The medicine was neither too hot nor too cold, just perfect. He raised his face, ready to say the temperature was just right, but Su Kaiji leaned in first. He grabbed the hand holding the spoon and leaned forward to take the spoon into his mouth, his eyes fixed intently on the young emperor, as if transmitting some ambiguous message. The young emperor could not handle the overwhelming gaze filled with too much meaning. He quickly stepped back several paces, then angrily glared at the culprit. How dare you? Su Kaiji showed no fear of his imperial authority, even curling his lips into a faint, mischievous smile. Efficiency, is this considered audacious? Tomorrow, I have something even more audacious prepared for Your Majesty. The young emperor's expression immediately turned cold. Didn't I order you to stay in your room and focus on studying medicine? Su Kaiji raised his face and looked directly at the person in front of him. I am not a caged bird. Does Your Majesty still want to hide in the room and exchange secrets? As soon as the words left his mouth, the young emperor narrowed his eyes, and a dangerous aura instantly spread. Are you trying to defy my orders? Su Kaiji immediately made a gesture of surrender. I would not dare, I would not dare. I have already informed the servants to prepare the materials needed for the medicine. He stroked his chin as if in thought. Besides, there are no tools here right now. Keeping me locked up is pointless. Why not find something fun for Your Majesty to enjoy instead? The next day, the morning light was soft and gentle, and the jade flower garden was brimming with vitality. The young emperor, as if guided by some unseen force, followed Su Kaiji to the garden. He had no idea what kind of antics Su Kaiji had planned this time. Su Kaiji still remembered that Eunuch Joe had mentioned the young emperor enjoyed listening to music. So, he had instructed the servants early on to find the renowned Qin players in the area, thinking the young emperor would appreciate this surprise. As he thought about it, the smile on his lips grew even more pronounced. When they arrived at the agreed location, Su Kaiji waved his hand grandly and pointed to the Qin players. The young emperor followed his gesture and looked in the direction he indicated, his expression turning indescribable. This is the surprise you mentioned. Su Kaiji looked over in confusion, only to widen his eyes even further. The Qin players he pointed to were all heavily powdered with garish makeup and were shamelessly throwing flirtatious glances at the young emperor. The young emperor closed his eyes and let out a helpless laugh. Among them, Su Fate truly had a knack for killing without a trace. Su Kaiji was utterly mortified. His face darkened as he turned to the servant and asked how they had found such people. The servant explained that they had followed his instructions. Su Kaiji felt overwhelmed and immediately waved them away, telling them to leave quickly. Well, the surprise had turned into a shock.